Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has his inheritance memories. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by SeaCatSD, link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, Waking Up, Smoke. He could smell the hot dry gas permeating his senses as he struggled to breathe. It was difficult not to choke on every inhale, and to make matters worse the smell was now joined by the taste. As conciseness slowly crept back and sounds returned as well. He could hear crackling, the soft sounds of a dying fire echoing in his ears. Something moved over to his left pane. His entire body was racked with terrible pain, every bone had to be broken, and it felt like his skin was on fire. He knew he had to move, to get up, but his body didn't want to respond. It would just be so much easier to lay here and go back to sleep. Get up, boy. Naruto opened his eyes slowly, they didn't seem to want to work at first, but the world gradually began to resolve itself. He wished for a moment that it hadn't. Shooting pains roamed his body with every movement as punishment, but as he propped himself upright, he could see that he was lying in the middle of the worst devastation he had ever seen. The forest was burned for at least 200 meters in every direction, and there were craters the size of buildings littering the landscape. He turned his head to look in the direction of the movement he felt a moment ago. Iro-sennin. Jiraiya sat with his back against a small boulder, blood was oozing from his chest and staining his long mane of spiky white hair. His breathing was ragged and he was having trouble staying conscious. It had taken everything the aging shinobi had to stop Naruto's rampage, and he'd been worried that Naruto might not survive after seeing what the Kyuubi's possession had done to his student's body, but it looked like Naruto was back to normal, and while the youngster had seen better days he would be fine. The healing powers the Kyuubi granted the genin never ceased to amaze him. Now his own condition was the pressing question. He'd been sitting here for the last 30 minutes trying to figure out if he could stand. Deciding it was now or never, he gathered his strength and gave it a shot. Naruto, he managed before collapsing in cloud of ash. Ignoring the constant pain every movement brought, Naruto crawled towards his unconscious teacher and grabbed hold of his guy. Iro-sennin, wake up. Can you hear me? It was no use, he realized, his sensei was out cold and probably needed medical attention. Naruto groaned, it looked like he was going to have to carry Jiraiya to help, and the old man looked awfully heavy. Damn it, where are we? He asked out loud. He looked around trying to spot something familiar, but whatever happened here erased anything he might recognize. Naruto quickly searched his memories trying to recall the last thing he could. I remember setting up camp about 4 kilometers east of Nagoya. We were talking about the Kyuubi and the seal, and then shit. That's the last thing I remember. That's not a good sign. But at least I have direction. West it is. He shook his sensei one last time just in case. Iro-sennin, are you awake? Didn't think so, you better not have been cheating on that diet. Naruto gritted his teeth against his body's protest and heaved the other man up onto his shoulders. Arg. You cheater. Aw, come on, you old perv. Naruto complained. We both know you're awake and just too lazy to walk your damn self, give me a break, would you? He glanced over his shoulder at Jiraiya's face and saw the Sannin was still out cold. Naruto sighed in irritation. He'd always imagined winning every argument against Iro-sennin would be more entertaining. He readjusted the weight with a heave and resumed putting one foot in front of the other. He'd been dragging the old man for what seemed like an eternity, but his training told him was probably 3 kilometers or so, but he wasn't sure how much farther he could go. It was difficult to focus his eyes now, and he was still bleeding from several deep gashes, although the flow of blood had stemmed somewhat. His orange jumpsuit hung from his battered body in shreds. In his current state he'd collapse any moment, but as he looked up he finally saw what he'd been looking for. The smoke of cooking fires, that could only mean people, and help. Help. Come quick, they're hurt. Naruto looked toward the voice and saw a young boy running toward him. There were several adults behind him, but Naruto couldn't quite make them out. Some kid spotted us and he's bringing help, that's a good thing, the weary ninja thought. Now I think I just need to rest for a second. Naruto flopped forward, crumpling in the tall grass. Well, look at that, Sleeping Beauty awakes. That voice sounded familiar. Well, at least I'm not dead. There's no god in heaven that would stick me with Iro-sennin for all eternity and call it paradise. Then again, I could be in hell. Naruto opened his eyes and actually felt the harsh fluorescent light ping against the back of eyeballs. What the hell, he moaned. He waited for his eyes to make the painful adjustment to his current surroundings and found himself staring at the white drop ceiling of your typical hospital, something he'd learned from extensive experience. Good, we made it. You're a damn liar. Liar? What are you talking about? Naruto turned his head to his right and saw Jiraiya lying in the bed next to him. You said you weren't cheating on your diet. Jiraiya looked incredulous. I didn't, I swear. Please, I just lugged your overweight ass halfway across the countryside. From now on your name is Debu Iro-sennin. Debu Iro-sennin means fat perverted hermit. Ah. You're just too damn weak. Maybe if you worked on strength conditioning once in a while instead of practicing the same jutsu over and over, you wouldn't be lying there making baseless accusations. Naruto managed a grin, you're right. He tried to sit up and was immediately rewarded with a terrible jolt of pain, trying to split him in half and gave up. Damn, that hurts, how are you doing? Jiraiya's smile faded a bit, my chest feels like it's ground beef, but I'll live. We might be stuck here for a few more days though, I don't heal like you do. Naruto squinted out of one eye and nodded. Speaking of which, what the hell happened out there? The whole damn forest looked like it was destroyed, I've never seen anything like it. You don't remember? Jiraiya asked. Naruto furrowed his brow, no, the last thing I remember was us setting up camp and you taking another look at the Kyuubi seal before we ate dinner. Jiraiya put his arms up behind his head, that's strange, but I suppose you did take a pretty hard knock to the head. Well, the truth is I was playing around with a new summoning and kind of lost control. I managed to disperse the damn thing, but not before the battle caused all that carnage you saw. Naruto stared at his sensei, 2 years with the pervert taught him a lot about how to read the Keiji shinobi, and his bullshit sense was starting to tingle. Jiraiya sensei only summons frogs, and he's basically in good standing with Gamabunta, the most powerful of all frogs. Seems awfully unlikely that he could summon another frog that's actually too powerful for him to control, his story doesn't add up. Like, why don't I remember anything at all? Even if I got knocked out during the fight I should still remember something about what happened. And if I really took that kind of hit to the head then why isn't my head bandaged? Naruto decided to bluff, so what really happened? The question was just quick enough to catch the legendary Sannin off guard. What do you mean what happened? I just told you kid, try not to be so paranoid. It wasn't much, but it was enough. That almost instantaneous flicker in Jiraiya's response told Naruto all he needed to know. Jiraiya was lying. He turned his head back towards the ceiling and didn't say anything for a full minute. Jiraiya-sensei? Jiraiya twitched in surprise, he honestly couldn't remember the last time Naruto addressed him respectfully, he might be busted. Yes. Do you think you could tell me what really happened? It's been 2 years now and I want to be able to trust you. Naruto, please Jiraiya, I know something else happened. I'm 17 years old and I'm tired of all the fucking secrets and all the fucking lies. My life is like one big rollercoaster, and a huge part of that is because everyone's always trying to protect me from the truth. I don't need that from you too, I need someone who'll treat me like a man and tell me what's real so I can face it. Jiraiya turned away and went completely silent. Naruto sat waiting for him to say something, anything, but nothing came. Damn it Jiraiya, not you too, he whispered. Naruto closed his eyes and tried to push back the flood of emotions that were starting to wash over him, but something was breaking, giving way to the tide welling up from his gut. Do you have any idea what it's like to grow up an outcast Jiraiya? Do you have any idea what it's like for an 8-year-old to be spat on in the streets and not even know why? He demanded angrily. Jiraiya turned back and looked at his apprentice, he tried to keep his own composure, but there was a sadness in face that he couldn't wipe away. He didn't know, and knowing that he'd been gallivanting around the world peeking into women's baths while Minato's only son suffered a lifetime's worth of pain just to start his childhood kept Jiraiya up more nights than Naruto would ever know. He wanted to say something, he wanted to apologize, but he didn't want to interrupt. This was something Naruto needed to get off his chest, and it was something Jiraiya knew he needed to hear. Naruto's outburst was starting to pick up speed. I used to get jealous of the other orphans because they could beg for food when we didn't get much to eat. But I couldn't because I was more likely to get beat down than get a piece of bread. The orphans didn't even want me around because I'd fuck things up for them. How's a little kid supposed to understand that? Telling me why they hated me wouldn't have changed how I lived, but it would help me understand Jiraiya. At least I would have known it wasn't my fault. Naruto sat up in his bed totally oblivious to the pain shooting through his body. The adrenaline was holding him up now, and he couldn't even hear his own words over sound of blood rushing through his ears. It took me my entire life to figure out that I wasn't a monster, that all those fucking bastards were wrong about me. If someone just would have told me the truth back then. But how did I find out that the Kyuubi no Kitsune was sealed into my chest, forever trying to eat its way out? I had to learn it from the bastard demon himself after you threw me off a cliff. Jiraiya-sensei, I know I'm not even close to being the Hokage, so I don't expect anything from those ignorant bastards in the village, but you do know me. You know better than anyone how I've risked my life for that ungrateful village and how I've risked my life for the people I love. You've even seen me kill for them, and I've killed to protect you too. Jiraiya couldn't stop his eyes from tearing up. The look on Naruto's face the first time he killed was something the Sannin never forgot. They couldn't wash the blood off fast enough. They never spoke of it again, but the first kill wasn't something that any shinobi ever forgot. Naruto looked Jiraiya square in the face. I've never asked for anything before but acceptance. But now I'm asking you for something else Jiraiya-sensei, something I think I've earned after all this time. I want the truth and I want to know all of it, not just the part you think I'm ready for. Naruto tilted his head down towards the floor and his voice dropped off to a whisper, I just want to know for once what's happening to me before I find out from a monster. Jiraiya couldn't take it anymore, he couldn't bear the sight of Naruto's face and had to turn away. Everything the kid said was true and then some, he couldn't remember the last time he'd felt so guilty. That was one hell of a speech, kid, you're a lot more grown up than I usually give you credit for. Maybe you're ready to hear the truth, God knows I'm sick of hiding it from you. I just hope Tsune doesn't kill me when she finds out and I hope you understand, Minato. I have the key, Naruto. Naruto picked his head up, the key to what? The key to the seal on your stomach. Naruto gasped, there's a key, but why? What's it for? Just calm down and listen, the Jiraiya responded. Listen and I'll tell you everything. Naruto relaxed, shocked but quiet. The fourth Hokage entrusted it to me just before he died. It was meant to strengthen the seal if it ever weakened over time, but it can also loosen or release the seal completely. That's what really happened yesterday. I thought I could loosen the seal and give you greater access to the fox's chakra, but the demon took over your body and I was barely able to stop you. Naruto sank back into the soft cotton sheets, so I was the one who destroyed the forest and caused all that destruction, and I don't remember any of it. Jiraiya nodded, yes, and it was my fault. I've been studying the seal, and I thought it would be safe to loosen it. But there's a lot more to the key than that, Naruto. Like what? My studies over the last couple of years keep pointing to the same conclusion, no matter how I look at it. It looks like the seal that the fourth Hokage used to imprison the Kyuubi is incomplete. Naruto almost jumped out of his bed and ended up doubled over in pain. Naruto, calm down, you're gonna hurt yourself. Erg, okay, I'm calm, he spit through clenched teeth. Naruto tried to ease himself back into bed. What do you mean incomplete? I mean just that, it's like the sealing technique was left one step short for some reason. I don't know exactly why he would do that, but one thing seems certain, it was intentional. If he had completed the seal then you and the Kyuubi would be permanently entangled, but you're not. Naruto's face brightened, really? Jiraiya saw his mistake, continued quickly, that doesn't mean you can get rid of it, Naruto. If the seal is released the Kyuubi would exit through you, killing you in the process. It's only temporary for him. Then why leave it open to being released at all? Naruto wondered aloud. What the fuck? Didn't he do enough to me? I'm stuck with this damn thing for my entire life, and he leaves the door cracked open for me to be ripped apart just in case. Naruto's outburst was rewarded with another flash of pain. Naruto, calm down if you want to hear the rest. He shot Jiraiya a dirty look, there's more. What, did he leave a bomb in my chest too? Ignoring the sarcasm, Jiraiya continued, have some faith, would you? The fourth wouldn't have done this without good reason, I should know, he was my student. Naruto stared at his sensei in amazement, this really seemed like one of those things you told someone before a couple of years went by, you what? Jiraiya gave him a slightly bored expression, what? I was the fourth Hokage's Jounin instructor, didn't I mention it? Naruto shook his head, no, you didn't mention it. You know I've always wanted to be the Hokage, why wouldn't you tell me that you taught one of them? Jiraiya smiled, what's important is that I'm telling you now so you understand who taught the fourth his sealing techniques. Now the fourth did eventually eclipse me, and your seal is one of his custom jobs that I don't fully understand, but don't worry, you and I are going to figure this out together. The fourth Hokage had a plan for you, Naruto, and we're going to finish what he started. Naruto leaned back and looked thoroughly dejected, well, you'll have to excuse me if I'm not overly impressed with his great plan so far. Seems more to me like his plan was a tragic yet inevitable death. Quit being such a drama queen, I can tell you as a matter of fact that the fourth Hokage had big plans for you, Jiraiya said, smiling. Oh yeah? And how do you figure that? Jiraiya's smile faded, are you sure you want to know everything, Naruto? Once you know there's no going back. The hairs on Naruto's neck stood straight up, it was a tone he hadn't heard from the Sannin in a long time, not since the last time they had. To my mind is made up, Jiraiya-sensei, I want to know. Jiraiya sighed, he never figured he would be the one to tell the kid, even though by almost any measure it was his duty above anyone else's. It just wasn't his kind of thing, it was the kind of duty that he'd made a career out of avoiding. But perhaps that was the point, perhaps it was important for them both, the teller and the tellee. Minato would think it was hilarious. The reason I know the fourth would want things to go well for you is simple, kid, he might have been my student, but he was your father. Jiraiya sat and stared at Naruto to see how he would react, this wasn't exactly his area of expertise. Naruto blinked, what? Naruto blinked again, what did he say? The room started spinning and Naruto lost track of his surroundings, my father was the fourth Hokage. But I don't have a father, I'm an orphan. If I had a father someone would have told me. If I had a father, if I had a family. What the fuck did you say? Naruto screamed. I don't have a father. I don't have a mother. I don't have anyone, I didn't find myself. Do you understand me? Fuck you, Jiraiya. And fuck the fourth Hokage. The pair of large hands enveloped him, someone had him, someone was forcing him down, trying to stop him. Get off of me. Get away from me, you fuck. I'll kill you. But the hands were strong, he couldn't break free, he couldn't even see, everything was red, everything hurt. "Naruto, please stop." He wasn't sure why, but Naruto stopped just like the voice asked. Maybe it was the word please, he didn't hear that very often. Nothing made much sense, but he looked up and saw someone was holding him, someone he knew. Jiraiya. "Naruto? Are you okay?" The world stopped spinning and the room turned white again, it was a hospital room wasn't it? Naruto moved his eyes around, but ultimately they focused in on Jiraiya. The Sannin was out of his bed and holding him down he realized. Looking into Jiraiya's face the new information finally integrated itself with his consciousness and Naruto breathed out slowly. Jiraiya was bleeding. "I'm okay Jiraiya-sensei, I'm sorry. Please lay down, you're bleeding." Jiraiya cast a weary glance at his student and slowly peeled his hands from the young man's arms. He looked down and confirmed what he already knew, he broke a whole mess of stitches. He could hear the now patient-less monitor next to his bed echoing out a steady tone, at least he wouldn't have to call for the nurses. Jiraiya limped back over to his bed and laid back down with a heavy grunt. Naruto watched him hit the bed, but he was lost in his own thoughts, the fourth Hokage. But why would he do this to me if I'm his son? Why did he curse me? Why did he leave me all alone? Why? An image suddenly flashed across his mind, of hair, of eyes, and stone. Naruto felt his entire body relax like an unseen weight just vanished into the ether, he never left it all did he? He was always there watching over me, hiding in plain sight. Jiraiya-sensei. Yes Naruto. What was he like? Chapter 2 Return to Konoha. Naruto looked down at the village of Konoha from his high perch, standing atop a power pole he breathed in the fresh air and let his gaze settle on Hokage Mountain. He studied the face of the fourth Hokage looking for something. "Well I'm back, I hope you didn't get too used to things being quiet around here, I plan on making a little noise." He whispered. "Naruto." Jiraiya called, "Get down here. Someone wants to see you." Naruto glanced down to see a young girl standing next to Jiraiya with pink hair, smiling Naruto hurled himself downward and slammed into the hard ground below. With his chakra-enhanced strength the landing was no problem, nor would it have been for most shinobi, but the villagers nearby nearly jumped out of their skin. Jiraiya rolled his eyes at the obvious showmanship, but it did seem to elicit a reaction of surprise from Sakura. "Sakura-chan. Wow are you a sight for sore eyes." Naruto called as he rushed up and clasped her up in bear hug. Sakura squeaked with surprise and Naruto immediately felt awkward, he released her and jumped back with both of them looking a bit embarrassed. Jiraiya giggled, "Well this has some promise now doesn't it? I bet now he wishes he had read more of my books." "Naruto-kun." Sakura blushed, had he ever changed? When she saw him standing on top of the power pole staring at the Hokages he seemed so different than she remembered, quieter somehow, with a strength that seemed to pour out of him, even though he was doing nothing but standing still. She wondered what had happened to him these last 3 years to change him like this, and she suddenly found herself filled with a sense of regret as she realized how much she had missed him and how hard she had tried to bury those feelings of loneliness. It hadn't been easy losing both of her squad mates. Sakura shook herself out at that present had just evaporated into the past, Naruto was back. Sakura took a moment to study the new Naruto, he was taller, much taller. In fact he looked like he was taller than she was by a good 3 inches. His clothes had changed slightly, but he still clung to his trademark orange and black. His face was a lot leaner and his hair was longer thick blonde spikes partially covering his bright blue eyes, adding a hint of mystery. "Oh my god. Am I checking him out?" She though wildly, since when was Naruto attractive? She kept looking to make sure, he was no Sasuke of course, no one would ever be that good she told herself. But he was getting much better. Out of instinct Sakura shifted to the side subtly to show off her legs, "You're not the only one who's grown Naruto. Check this out. You look so much older Naruto. It's been so long since I've seen you, do I look more mature now too?" She asked, hoping he would notice her. "Wow Sakura you're just great, you look exactly the same," Naruto caught himself in mid-sentence. He was about to say something really stupid, damn it. "Think before you speak, you're not like that anymore." He chastised himself. "You look like you're an amazing woman." He blurted in a mild mental panic. Man I hope she buys that. Actually she did look good, beautiful in fact. Gone was the long dress, replaced with knee-high open-toed boots and a form-fitting skirt that stopped above the knees. He thought it was plenty short but even so it was slitted up the side to allow for better movement. She wore lycra shorts underneath that jutted out just below the skirt but the shape of her legs was still easy to make out. He tried not to stare, but his eyes didn't seem to want to cooperate. Sakura followed his eyes and blushed even deeper, he noticed. She thought smugly. Now I won't have to pile drive him into the ground for almost saying I look exactly the same. I have to admit, you're growing up Naruto. Jiraiya for one was proud, the kid had come a long way in the last year since he learned about his past. He was so much more like his father now, no one would believe it. And smooth talking a girl. Way to go Naruto. Jiraiya thought. He's doing great, I wonder if he knows she's checking him out. I wonder if the pervy sage is getting a load of this. Naruto beamed inwardly. I told him I didn't need those stupid books. Sakura just checked me out, I'm sure of it. The awkward silence was broken by a distant call, hey. Naruto-san. Naruto turned around to see the newcomers and saw two people approaching. The first was unrecognizable, hiding his face behind his tall collar and glasses, and the other was wearing a black jumpsuit and riding atop some kind of monstrous wolf. The rider predictably arrived first and leapt off his beast, landing right in front of Naruto and Sakura. Naruto. What's it been like 3 years? He asked, obviously expecting a response. Yeah, I guess. Naruto stumbled. Wait a minute. It can't be Kibashino. How have you been? You two looked completely different, and that beast over there, is that Akamaru? He's huge. It seems like it's been forever. Wait, there was another member of this team. Naruto remembered, a girl, a weird girl. Hey, where's Hinata? Bibber rolled his eyes, looking offended. Hinata? Who cares? She's scared of you anyways. What have you been doing these last 3 years? Training like crazy, I bet. Naruto smirked, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, just wait until you see what I can do now. Akamaru barked to Kiba. No kidding, he's a lot different, Kiba thought. Almost intimidating. How interesting. Shino was having the same thought, his bugs were whispering a warning to him that there was dangerous chakra near. If it was anyone else he would have thought that Jiraiya-sama's formidable presence was setting them off, but he could tell it was Naruto. So Naruto, you seem a lot different than I remember, you seem much stronger. I take it that your training with Jiraiya-sama was a success. Success? You bet it was. I'm a lot stronger now than when I left. And I'm not just a brawler anymore either, Jiraiya-sane's been teaching me a whole lot of techniques that run in my family. He stuttered, not wanting to give away too much. A lot of techniques that I seem to have an affinity for. One of Shino's eyebrows raised slightly behind his sunglasses. Something familiar ticked at the edge of Naruto's senses, he looked away, suddenly searching for something down the street. Aha. I know that feeling, it must be. He made a quick sign with his left hand, and with a puff of smoke he was gone. Whoa. His friends all yelled in unison, they weren't expecting that. When did he learn that? Sakura wondered. A body flicker jutsu. It was a deceptive jutsu that gave the user the illusion of teleportation, but Sakura knew that wasn't really the case. A shinobi first concentrated a large mass of chakra inside their body and then pre-planned out his or her route. Once the jutsu was activated, the user's body would perform the planned series of movements at an incredible speed, faster than they ever could hope to do normally. It was so fast in fact that the user couldn't even see during the jutsu's execution. This was both the technique's strength and its fatal flaw, of course. It took a moment for the ninja to decelerate and gain their bearings coming out of a body flicker. That moment of confusion was all it took to get killed in battle. As a result, only a handful of shinobi with the most exceptional reflexes ever used the technique in combat. The jinjutsu portion of the technique was usually used to create a cover like smoke or some other confusion to help protect a ninja finishing a flicker. Nearly all jounin could manage a basic body flicker, but Naruto had never shown much talent for such things. He wasn't kidding when he said Jiraiya-sama had been teaching him some new things. Sakura looked around and opened her senses, searching for him. There were some other shinobi nearby, but she couldn't locate Naruto. I don't have time for this. She thought. I'm supposed to bring him to talk to the fifth. Jiraiya-sama, do you have any idea where Naruto just went? She asked, exasperated. His eyes flickered for just a moment, then he smiled. What, you can't tell? Oh. Hinata Hyuga yelped. Naruto Uzumaki, the love of her life, had just appeared in front of her and she was absolutely paralyzed. She had hidden down the street and behind a fence when she saw him standing up on the power pole. She wasn't ready to see him, not after 3 years. She had no idea he was back. What was she going to say? I still freeze up around him, damn it. Naruto nearly fell over after appearing in front of her. This was Hinata. Her soft lavender eyes perfectly framed her button nose and delicate lips. She was chewing on her lower lip nervously, trying not to look him in the eye. It was actually a lot like how he remembered her, but instead of being odd and annoying, it just seemed so irresistible now. He continued analyzing her. She had traded in one oversized coat for another, but this one suited her much better, less a winter coat and more of a uniform. It was unzipped partway to reveal her mesh top, hinting to what was beneath. Her hair was longer now as well and wrapped around her shoulders, leading down to her more than ample looking. Looking up, Hinata saw she was being undressed by Naruto's eyes and she turned bright red. Naruto-kun. Up here, she whispered. Oh yeah, baby. Her mind trumpeted, he just looked me up and down and he liked it. Yes. My Naruto is back. Well hi. Naruto managed, floundering for his composure. He must have spent too much time with the pervert. So how is your eye thing going? She stared at him. You idiot. Naruto thought, real smooth. How's your eye thing? Say something else. You look a lot stronger, Hinata-chan. You'll have to spar with me sometime and show me what you've learned. he yelled, causing her to back up against the fence. Oh hey, much better. He thought, sort of. Well, sure Naruto-kun. Whatever you say, she mumbled, looking back to the ground. Well, she's still weird, Naruto thought. But cute. Naruto. Sakura called, rounding the corner. She couldn't believe that Jiraiya was right. How could she have missed him just down the street? She saw the Hyuga girl with her back up against the fence and Naruto leaning in on her, grinning from ear to ear. What's this? She wondered. Naruto, the fifth wants to see you right away. You're to report to her and get your first assignment. Alright. I'll be there in a sec. He responded. Turning back to Hinata, Naruto remembered how he had helped the girl with her fears before and she still looked like she couldn't look him in the eye. I'm serious about the sparring, alright. The eyes, of course, Naruto-kun, Hinata stuttered. She had gone completely red now. It was all she could do to keep from passing out. Man, is she ever blushing. What is that all about? Just some training, jeez. Naruto thought as he turned to walk away. Well, alright then, it's a date. Well, you know. Hinata stopped breathing for a moment and passed out, the momentary lack of oxygen being the straw that broke the camel's back. She landed with an audible thud. What I meant. Naruto trailed off. Man, I can't remember a time when that girl stayed upright. So strange. Naruto turned back toward his teammate. Alright Sakura, you win, let's go see the Hokage, looks like I'm done here anyways. Sakura stood there contemplating Naruto as he approached. It was easy to sense his chakra now that he was right in front of her and she knew it was him. No wonder I couldn't find him. His chakra feels completely different. I was sensing his presence but I mistook him for someone else. But how is that possible? Chakra is supposed to be like a fingerprint, once you know someone's you always know it. She made a mental note to ask the fifth about it later. Are you done harassing that poor girl? She asked as they started towards Hokage Tower. We need to get going, the fifth is going to wonder where we're at. Sakura-chan. I wasn't harassing her, I just said hi. Sure, it was all my imagination. And she's not unconscious laying on her back on the sidewalk over there either, is she? Yeah, I don't really know why she always does that, Naruto replied. I swear Naruto, how could you change so much and still be this hopeless? Hinata's eyes fluttered open. There she is. Kiba teased. Done napping. If you're still tired I can go and get Naruto again. Shino shook his head from side to side, sometimes he wondered if these two were ever going to grow up. You still can't control yourself around him, it's very embarrassing. Hinata ignored her teammates, he seemed really interested in me. She squealed inwardly. Naruto's finally back and he's interested in me. I've got to get ready for training with him, oh my god, what am I going to do? Tsunade was staring at her desk as usual and her inbox was now stacked just slightly above eye level, as usual. This annoyed her to no end, it made it impossible for her to see someone sitting in her office without looking around the stack or standing up, worse it made her look like a lazy ass. Shit, I need some sake. She stated flatly. As she reached for her stash in the lower left drawer, the door to her office swung open. Hokage-sama. Shizune shouted as she barged in the oversized office. Master Jiraiya and Naruto have returned. Thank God. Tsunade thought, now I can put this fucking paperwork off till later. Shizune looked at her sensei as she ushered in the two travelers and Sakura. She's not going to get this paperwork done now, is she? She sighed, another late night. Looking up, she watched Jiraiya enter the office, giving her a wink, followed by Naruto and finally her newest student Sakura. She noted the slight change in the air around Naruto. Interesting. Tsunade-sama. Naruto beamed. How are you? Tsunade's eyes narrowed. Show some respect, you lit. Wait, did Naruto just address her appropriately? Where was the old lady insult? She realized everyone was staring at her. Naruto. Yes, thank you for coming. She said, maybe if she acted like she hadn't said that then the rest would play along. I wanted to talk to you about your progress over the last 3 years. I trust Jiraiya has made a real ninja out of you. No need to be insulting. Naruto sniffed. He could see it was going to be a while before people stopped treating him like an idiot child. Man, was I that bad? What are you talking about? Jiraiya yelled. Of course he's progressed. He was taught by the great Toad Sage after all, yeah. Tsunade sighed, well at least Jiraiya was the same, big shocker. But Naruto was certainly different, bigger sure, but that was to be expected. It was his demeanor that had caught her attention, he was quiet, attentive, and his deep blue eyes sparkled with something deeper than before. Jiraiya, who is this and what have you done with Naruto? She wondered. Still marveling at the transformation, Tsunade continued, well good, then I have a little surprise for you, we're going to test your new skills at training ground number 7. Then I can figure out what to do with you. Oh come on Tsunade-sama. Naruto whined. You know you can send me on any mission. I'm way stronger now than I used to be. No arguments Naruto, your opponent is outside. Naruto didn't understand at first, he looked out the window at the street but immediately sensed the presence to his left, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto. The lean Jounin greeted. It's been a long time, you sure have grown a lot since I last saw you. I take it Jiraiya has been training you well. You bet. I guess the fifth wants me to beat on you for a while before she'll give me an assignment. He joked. Is that so? Looks like I'm going to have to give my old student one more lesson. Kakashi replied coolly. Okay, Naruto threw up his hands in feigned defeat. But this will be a good chance to show you some of my new talents, try to not act too surprised okay? No chance of that Naruto Kakashi thought. He'd been studying Naruto since he entered the adjoining room. It confused him at first, but through a simple process of elimination, he realized that the strange chakra belonged to Naruto. It wasn't like anything he had felt before and there was a lot of it. That alone seemed worrisome, but standing here talking to Naruto Kakashi could see the change in his personality. He was calmer now, more aware of his surroundings, even now the genin was sizing him up, he could tell. Well then, how about you show me what you've learned? Chapter 3 Kakashi's Bells. Standing at Training Ground 7 with Sakura sure did bring back memories, it was where Kakashi-sensei had put them through their first team exercise, the Bells training. Of course there had been 3 of them back then. Kakashi looked at what was left of his former team, both Naruto and Sakura seemed lost in thought, thinking about Sasuke I'll bet. Well Sasuke may be gone, but you two seem much stronger. He started. Sakura immediately slumped her shoulders even more at the mention of her missing next teammate. I see Sasuke is still a taboo word around her, but Naruto doesn't seem to be reacting at all, interesting Kakashi mused. Naruto saw Sakura react to Sasuke's name, he sighed inwardly. She was still in love with him obviously, when would she ever learn? It hurt him too of course, but he was learning to control his emotions as a shinobi should. You still had to have them of course, and his ninja way was still as unyielding as ever, but that didn't mean you had to wear every feeling on your sleeve. As Tsunade, Jiraiya and Shizune looked on, Kakashi took out 2 bells and tied them to his belt. You know the rules, come at me like you're going to kill me, or you'll never get the bells. Both Naruto and Sakura nodded. What, no book this time? Naruto asked sarcastically. No, not this time. Kakashi replied evenly. In fact I think I'm going to have to take you two a bit more seriously this time. The mysterious Jounin lifted his headband to reveal his seldom seen left eye. The tomo surrounding his red Sharingan eye rotated slightly. I think I'm going to need this. In the distance, another watched the training, but she was having trouble seeing, by Akugan. She said, calling upon the birthright technique of her family. Hinata gasped, what was wrong with her eyes? Are you ready? Kakashi asked. Without a word Naruto charged first jumping high in the air, Kakashi flicked a couple of kunai his direction to slow his advance and gauge his movements. Naruto formed his trademark seal and created a shadow clone next to himself in midair, the clone grabbed his shirt and flung the original sideways and out of danger. Very nice Naruto. Kakashi thought, but to slow as Naruto landed, his former teacher was already there, holding his head with one hand. I didn't say start yet, still impatient Naru Kakashi's question was cut short as he sensed another presence behind him, there stood another Naruto, with a kunai pressed into his back. So you created 3 clones not 2. Clever are you ready to start for real this time? Kakashi asked. If we haven't started yet then why am I talking to a clone? Naruto replied. The question had the desired response. When did he see? Kakashi's clone wondered as the kunai plunged its back, causing it to vanish in a puff of smoke. Sakura, below. Naruto shouted, she understood immediately. Sakura slammed her fist into the ground, calling upon all her strength, and the terrain within a 10-meter radius shattered, revealing an underground and shocked Kakashi staring up at his former students. What insane strength. Tsunade's crazy teaching that technique, looks like I'm going to have to take these 2 more than just a little seriously. Only slightly less shocked was Naruto, he was expecting her to take guard against an attack from below. When did she learn that? He wondered. Man I better not piss her off. Kakashi jumped up out of the crater onto a particularly large piece of rubble. Well, I can see this is going to be more interesting than last time. He called out. Why don't we test your defenses? Kakashi's hands blurred as he threw together a series of complex hand signs. Doriden no Jutsu. The ground began rumbling as a massive earthen dragon raised up from the dirt next to Kakashi. Naruto and Sakura both tensed not knowing what to expect. Suddenly the mouth of the dragon glowed white and it spit several large projectiles towards them. Sakura dodged the incoming fire with practiced grace, darting left, then up she escaped unscathed. Her sensei Lady Tsunade had taught her if she had one responsibility as a medical ninja, it was not to get injured. She turned back to see if Naruto avoided the attack. Naruto held his ground until the last moment, Shunshin no Jutsu. He vanished as the balls of chakra-laced mud exploded at his feet, sending a wave of dirt and grass into the forest. Naruto reappeared 3 feet in front of Kakashi, already throwing a quick jab towards his face. Kakashi reacted instantly, tilting his head out of the way and tapping the outside of Naruto's arm, he forced the young ninja to overextend and grabbed him by the shoulder. Using Naruto's momentum against him, Kakashi turned his hip into Naruto and tried to throw him away and to the left. But Naruto anticipated the move and had already rotated his hips in the direction of Kakashi's toss. This allowed him to keep his balance and counter the move altogether as he naturally rotated back to face his mentor and dug his feet into the ground. The momentum now his, Naruto grabbed Kakashi's arm and pulled back hard, throwing the jounin over his shoulder. Keeping with his almost lazy style of taijutsu, Kakashi decided to flow along with the maneuver and simply allow himself to be thrown, smoothly rotating in midair. He released another series of kunai at Naruto to stop him from capitalizing on his successful reversal. Naruto was about to surge forward after his midair opponent but was forced to hit the deck to avoid the kunai. Excellent work, Naruto. Kakashi praised, landing gently in the pasture near the water. That was an excellent use of the body flicker technique. If your timing was any better you might have got me. Actually, his timing is superb, it's just his bad luck that the Sharingan defeats the speed and genjutsu of that technique. Without it he probably would have landed that blow. I've only known a handful of shinobi who have honed the body flicker to a point where it can be used effectively in battle, very impressive. He also managed to counter my throw, his taijutsu is improved as well. This could make his shadow clone technique very troublesome, the last thing I need is an army of Narutos that can attack and defend well. He thought. Now I've got you. Sakura yelled. She rocketed down towards him with her right leg extended and aimed at Kakashi's head. Kakashi looked up and squinted, trying to separate her from the noontime sun. She's using the sun to blind me to her attack. I can't see well enough to counter, not that I'd want to against her. He dove out of the way as she demolished the area he was standing in only a moment before. His escape forced Kakashi onto the lake, taking up position on the water. He stared down his two pupils as they regrouped and faced him. I have to admit, you two are getting to be quite the handful. I'm starting to miss the old days. Really? We're just starting to have fun. Naruto yelled. Oh really? Alright then, have some fun with this. Kakashi's hands blurred again as he formed his next attack. Oh my god. His hands are moving so fast I can't make out the signs. Sakura yelled. Naruto smiled to himself. You're right, Sakura, he is fast. You may not be able to read his hand signs, but I can. Naruto tapped his thumb against a small tack on his belt. Tsunami Kaiken Jutsu. A massive wall of water raised up out of the lake in front of Kakashi and surged in the direction of Naruto and Sakura. Naruto. It's too wide to avoid. Sakura called over the roar of the approaching tidal wave. I know, get next to me and hold on. He yelled back. Kakashi watched the wave break onto land and engulf the area in several tons of frothing water. Just as the wave broke and came crashing down on the ground where Naruto and Sakura had been, he saw something flash straight up, escaping the onslaught. With water and smoke streaming off the mysterious object, he had trouble making out exactly what it was. It's too large to be either one of them, and not many shinobi could manage a 50-meter high jump. I don't know what form I'm looking at, but this has to be one of Naruto's. Leave it to Jiraiya to teach him techniques like this. The large awkwardly shaped blob reached its crest and began falling back to earth straight down, splashing down hard into the remnants of Kakashi's artificial tidal wave. He widened his stance slightly to better react to the attack he suspected was coming. Kakashi didn't have to wait long as a large pink tendril shot out from the water and raced straight at him. Throwing himself hard to the right, he looked back as the fleshy pink monstrosity reached his previous location and turned 90 degrees again, flying straight at him. Kakashi's eyes widened slightly. Well, this isn't good. The tentacle caught up with him a moment later and wrapped itself around him, squeezing the breath from his body. The massive pink tentacle lifted the helpless Jounin high into the air and then brought him down hard, smashing him into the ground head first. I got him that time. Naruto yelled. He was sitting on top of an 8-foot-tall armored frog, with Sakura right behind him holding on for dear life. The massive frog's tongue released Kakashi's body and whipped back into its mouth. You wouldn't believe how handy these summonings can summon, Sakura-chan. Yeah, I can see that. She responded, trying to imagine that the thing she had her legs wrapped around was anything but a wet slimy frog. Ignoring the disgustingly warm and slick feeling of the frog's skin against her thighs, she slid off its back and fought off the urge to throw up. Where's Kakashi-sensei? She asked unevenly. You don't think you really hurt him, do you? Yes, I hope not. Are you okay? You're walking funny. Naruto dismounted and the frog vanished in a puff of smoke on his silent command. I'm fine, it's not like I'm covered in slime or anything. She shot back. Let's just get back to the task at hand, shall we? Naruto giggled as they ran over to the last place they had seen their old sensei, to find a shattered tree log where he should have been. Man, I should have known. Replacement. Getting to Kakashi-sensei is impossible. Naruto sighed. Now we have to be on guard. You can bet he's watching us right now. That kid's dangerous. Kakashi thought. He was observing them from the forest, contemplating his next move. Every technique he's used thus far is something I didn't even know he could do. To say that he's grown is an understatement. And Sakura's no slouch either, she may not have his range of attacks, but with her strength one mistake and I'll be in the infirmary for a month. Sakura scanned the forest looking for any sign of Kakashi. So what are we going to do? She asked. Naruto looked thoughtful. Well, there is one more thing we can try, I've been holding it back in case I didn't need to use it. Think you can get his attention? From their perch at the edge of the training grounds Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizune watched the match. Tsunade shook her head. Jiraiya, how did you teach Naruto so much? It's like he's a totally different person. Kakashi actually had to retreat. Yay, he's full of surprises that one. Jiraiya replied. Just wait until he gets serious. Serious? You mean to tell me he's not trying? She asked surprised. Oh, he's trying alright, but he's not showing all his abilities yet. I'd expect him to stop holding back soon though, he's obviously figuring out that he's not going to get those bells without really surprising Kakashi. He replied. Kakashi stood with his back up against a tree. I'm sensing a lot of chakra signatures now, they're all entering the forest. Naruto must be using the shadow clone jutsu to try and flood the forest to flush me out. Before he could formulate a strategy, 3 kunai flew from a nearby tree and raced towards him. Kakashi ducked and sped away looking for the attacker and whatever else might lie ahead. His senses told him to look up and 2 Narutos dropped down to meet him. Kakashi was ready and sent shuriken flying at both, but to his surprise the twins both deflected his attack with a smooth stroke of their kunai. Kakashi halted as they landed in front him, cutting off his escape. I knew it, these clones are going to be troublesome. They're so much more capable now. But that's the true advantage of the shadow clone technique. It multiplies the user's effectiveness on the battlefield. Naruto may only be twice as good as he once was, but now that improvement is multiplied by each and every clone, making him 10 times harder to deal with. The Naruto twins stared at Kakashi but didn't move. Well? Are you just going to sit there? He asked them. Suddenly, they looked at each other with a grin and vanished, leaving Kakashi in the clearing alone. Uh-oh, this can't be good, he said under his breath. Oh no. An overly girly voice rang out to his right. This stupid uniform is always giving me so many problems. Now I can't even get this top to stay buttoned and I'm totally exposed. Sakura complained. She turned to face Kakashi, her shirt was unbuttoned, exposing her soft white stomach and lacy pink bra. Biting her lower lip and giving her best puppy dog eyes she pleaded, Kakashi-sensei. Could you help me please, everyone can see my perky breasts. Kakashi completely forgot where he was, his Sharingan began spinning wildly trying to take everything in, while a voice somewhere in the back of his head screamed at him for being a dirty old man. You trained her as a child, you sick bastard. Why in world would wait? Trap. His paralyzed mind caught the ruse too late, the half-naked Sakura vanished in cloud of smoke as he felt someone approaching from behind. Without any time to think, Kakashi jumped straight up to escape, glancing over his shoulder, he saw the ground disintegrate as the real Sakura just missed with another monstrous punch. So you like looking at underage girls, do you old pervert? Naruto was hiding in the brush nearby and saw Kakashi in midair. He wasn't where Naruto was hoping he'd be, however, and now Sakura was going to get in the way, but it would have to do. Okay Naruto, he whispered to himself, nothing but speed, pure speed. Gathering as much chakra as he could muster, Naruto launched himself full speed at the legendary copy ninja, hoping to catch him off guard. Naruto blurred out of the brush and flew toward Sakura and Kakashi. At the last second he jumped over Sakura and flicked a kunai into his hand. As Sakura watched Kakashi escape into the air, she suddenly saw him twist and raise a kunai for no reason. Before she could figure out what was going on, she felt a massive surge of chakra behind her, and something moved past her head at an incredible speed, the gale of wind following whatever it was actually threw her to the ground. She threw her hands out reflexively and caught herself from face planting into the cracked earth and pushed off hard with her left arm. She spun over trying desperately to get a look at what was happening above her. Staring up, she saw Naruto was there, his kunai pressed up against Kakashi's. Sakura gasped, was that thing Naruto? That's not possible. Naruto can't move like that, can he? What did he just do? If it hadn't been for the Sharingan, he would have missed it. Holy shit, he's fast. I'm not gonna make it. Kakashi thought, spinning in midair to meet Naruto's kunai. He managed to counter with nothing to spare, but the move had forced him off balance and in midair that was deadly. Naruto saw the opening and grabbed Kakashi's other arm, with both of them occupied, he wouldn't be able to make seals and perform complex ninjutsu. Now if only Sakura would stop gawking and help. Sakura saw the two lock together and shook off her shock. She launched herself into the air reaching for the bells, almost there, 3 meters, 2 meters, 1 meter. Kakashi vanished in puff of smoke, replaced with another large tree branch. Shit. Naruto and Sakura collided and came crashing towards the ground in a jumble of arms and legs. But the last second flip, Naruto landed on his feet and caught his upside down teammate against his body just before her head impacted the hard ground below. Belly to belly and inverted, Naruto looked down, Sakura looked up, and 4 eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets. This was easily the closest Naruto had ever been to this particular region of woman, and while his mind screamed at his eyes not to look in the name of decency, his eyes responded with the biological equivalent of piss off. Oh my god. I can't believe I'm staring at her. Is Sakura-chan wearing underwear? Oh shit, that pervy sage is starting to rub off on me. If I don't say something quick, Sakura's going to kill me. Sakura. Are you okay? He asked her pelvis. Sakura was still trying to come to terms with being within 6 inches of Naruto's crotch when she realized with startling clarity where his face was. Put me down, you pervert. She screamed. Naruto immediately complied and dropped her on her head. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, Sakura-chan. You're a dead pervert walking, you hear me, Naruto? Kakashi-sensei. Help me please. Jiraiya and Shizune collapsed in laughter as the forest was filled with the sounds of Naruto's screams, but Tsunade wasn't paying attention anymore. She was just staring at the young blonde genin. How did he move like that? There was no technique, it was just speed. He nearly got the drop on Kakashi even with the Sharingan. Hinata leaned up against a nearby tree and released her Byakugan, her large wide eyes returned to their natural lavender. What had she just seen? It couldn't be her, everyone else looked the same, but not Naruto. Naruto was like some kind of blur, a golden blur. And when the fight started he shined with a brilliance she had never seen before, he was almost difficult to look at. What could it mean? Chapter 4 Naruto's Inheritance. If Tsunade would have screamed at every one of them all the way back to Hokage Tower, it would have been better than the utter silence they got. On entering her office she turned to Shizune, go get me some sake, cold. None of the cheap crap. Yes, Lady Tsunade. She peeped, she was glad to be out the room, but something told her it would almost be worth it to stay just to see what was going to happen. Tsunade looked at Naruto, then Jiraiya, then back again. So who's going to tell me what happened out there? Naruto was like a force of nature out there. The jutsu I can understand, the improvements I can understand, but the way he moved. There's no way in hell Naruto should be able to move like he did. I couldn't even follow his movement. Along with everything else he was able to do, which was great, don't get me wrong. But something's going on here and I want to know what it is. Kakashi was using his Sharingan and still had trouble reacting. And after Naruto and Miss Perky Tits over there finished playing grab ass, they got the bells in 20 minutes. Sakura turned a deep crimson and looked down at the floor. That's not fair, it was Naruto's idea, she said under her breath. What's that? Tsunade asked loudly, glaring Sakura down. Was my other pink-haired perky-chested student running around the forest without a shirt? I don't know whether to beat you for setting Kunoichi's rights back 60 years or congratulate you for finding that pervert Kakashi's weak spot. Sakura clenched up, looking even more embarrassed if possible. Tsunade looked at her star pupil. Well, it actually was a good idea, it got the job done against the opponent they were given. It's not like she's actually going to do that against a real enemy. Naruto looked annoyed, he didn't really think it was a big deal, but he would have to apologize to Sakura later for getting her into trouble. He knew what kind of books Kakashi liked to read and figured that Sakura's wardrobe malfunction would completely shut him down. In retrospect maybe that wasn't such a good idea, but he was only doing what he was taught. Every situation, training and real, is different and the outcome is usually decided by the side with the most creativity. Wasn't being cunning and unpredictable at the very core of being a shinobi? Jiraiya was getting nervous and looking for an out, he knew there was no winning with an angry Tsunade. The Sannin took an almost imperceptibly small step towards the window. So are one of you two going to tell me what's going on with Naruto? Tsunade asked, turning her attention back to Jiraiya and his student. I can't explain everything as well as Jiraiya-sensei, but I'll tell you about it. Naruto said. Tsunade looked at him with a surprised expression, he wasn't showing any fear of her at all, he was taking the lead, calm and passive. He reminded her of someone. Well? Spit it out, you're going to tell me about what? She demanded. About my inheritance. Naruto stated simply. Tsunade blinked, expecting more. Your inheritance? What inheritance? Who left you an inheritance? Who else? Naruto asked. Like a ton of bricks, she understood. Sakura sweetie. Would you be a dear and please give us some privacy, I need to talk to Jiraiya and Naruto alone. Tsunade said pleasantly. The three of them froze, instincts alone told them a sweet tone like that could only mean danger, horrible, inescapable, danger. Sakura bolted for the door, thankful that whatever Naruto had just spilled was somehow bigger than her now forgotten wardrobe malfunction. Jiraiya was moving quicker towards the window when Sakura closed the door. Jiraiya. Tsunade screamed, reaching out for the retreating Sannin. What the hell did you tell him? You fucking idiot, that wasn't your decision to make. Have you forgotten who issued those orders? She caught him by the tip of his hair and yanked, flinging him across the room towards her and into a fistful of pain. Enough. Naruto yelled. Even before becoming Hokage not many people dared take that tone with Tsunade, but for some reason she froze. Jiraiya crashed to the floor in a heap. He didn't have a choice, I made him tell me, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm finally becoming the shinobi I was meant to be." She released her comrade's hair and ignored the hurt look on his face as he held his aching scalp. Now that was an interesting statement and not the sort of thing I expected to come out of Naruto's mouth. She sighed inwardly, I might as well find out what he knows. So lay it out for me, what has he told you? It was about a year ago, we had a training accident and I made Jiraiya-sensei tell me the truth, the whole truth. He told me about my father, Minato. He told me about my mother Kushina and how she died giving birth to me. And he told me about how my father died later that same night saving Konoha and what he left me. Tsunade sighed, so he did know, she didn't know if it was the right time, but that was moot now, leave it to Jiraiya. And? What does this all mean to you? The color in Naruto's eyes seemed to change somewhat, darkening. It means that I'm not an unwanted orphan, that I was always important to someone, that fate was cruel, but I was loved, even if only for one day. He said quietly, looking at the floor. Tsunade's heart broke, if she could scoop him up and make everything go away she would have done it, she would have done anything to change Naruto's life in that moment. It wasn't fair, and fate was cruel, but she knew that as well as anyone just like she knew that she couldn't change anything. I'm so sorry Naruto she said quietly. Naruto looked up, the sparkle returned to his bottomless blue eyes in an instant, it's okay Tsunade-chan. I finally know who I am now, and I've spent the last year honoring my parents by becoming the best shinobi I can be, believe it. Tsunade smiled, what a kid, no wonder everyone loves you so much. Maybe this was exactly what you needed, you're finally maturing. She continued, well then, that still leaves my original question doesn't it? Where did that burst of incredible speed come from? I think I better take this one, Jiraiya finally piped up. To make a long story short, a few months ago I completed Minato's seal and permanently merged his chakra with the Nine-Tails Fox. Ever since then, his abilities have grown by leaps and bounds. You did what Tsunade blurted out, she looked ready to punch the abused shinobi again. Hold on let me explain. Jiraiya pleaded, backing up just in case. In those years studying the seal I learned a great deal about it. What could you have possibly learned that would have possessed you to screw with that seal? She demanded. Jiraiya tried not to look offended, haven't you ever noticed that Naruto's the only Jinchuriki you've ever heard of that fights like a normal shinobi? The question vexed her for a moment, sure she had never met another Jinchuriki before, there weren't exactly shinobi with demons sealed inside them on every street corner after all. But she had read about them extensively just because of Naruto. But now that Jiraiya mentioned it everything she had ever read about the fighting styles of Jinchuriki only discussed the powers of the Biju trapped inside them and how the Jinchuriki channeled those powers in a fight. All other Jinchurikis fight relying on the power of their Biju. Jiraiya stated proudly, as if that explained anything. Naruto on the other hand doesn't, he's the only Jinchuriki in history who can fight by calling upon and molding his own chakra. Tsunade still didn't understand, what are you getting at? Well isn't it obvious? Jiraiya asked. The presence of a Biju in one's body is extremely disturbing to a human's normal chakra network, so much so that they can't use it. That's why all Jinchuriki rely on the power of their Biju to fight, because they have to. But Minato did it differently, he didn't seal all of the Kyuubi's chakra in Naruto, only the yang. Tsunade's mind called upon her extensive knowledge of chakra and the human body as she considered the implications. Now that is interesting, normally yin and yang don't play a big part in chakra usage or jutsu, but they must both be present of course for balance. Without balance, using chakra is nearly impossible, like pedaling a bike with only one leg. Wait, she said, thinking out loud. Are you saying? Yes. The excited Sannin continued, by only sealing the yang chakra in Naruto, his body was able to assimilate his Biju very differently. The presence of the Nine-Tails yang chakra in his body caused Naruto's body to produce less and less of its own yang chakra each year, being replaced by the yang chakra of the Nine-Tails. And his yin chakra then strengthened in response to the new more powerful yang chakra flooding his system, it was looking for balance. And finally a few months ago his own yang chakra disappeared completely. Completely? Tsunade asked shocked, but without any yang chakra of his own, was he able to mold chakra? No. Naruto cut in, I wasn't, my abilities as a shinobi vanished that day. Tsunade was stunned, had the fourth known this would happen. What a terrible risk. But it did make sense, by only introducing the fox's yang chakra into his system, Naruto's own yin and yang chakra would seek balance. But once his own yang chakra was gone, he wasn't able to control his remaining yin chakra and therefore couldn't call upon his powers, nor the Nine-Tails either. Jiraiya sensed her thoughts and filled in the rest, by leaving the seal unfinished Minato must have known what would happen. He left the key to me hoping that I would figure it out and that I would complete the seal once Naruto's chakra system had completely remolded itself to find true balance with the fox's presence. Then and only then the seal could be finished, their chakras perfectly merged, and the first Jinchuriki who had truly assimilated their Biju would be born. Tsunade flopped back in her chair, incredible, I guess you weren't a fourth Hokage for nothing. She thought to herself. She looked up, so what was the end result? Just speed. There has to more to it than just that. Well, Naruto responded, it was like a marching band that had been playing in my head suddenly went quiet. I had no idea how easy you normals had it. Naruto was smiling. Tsunade stared at him, normals. It's like I said, Jiraiya butted in. The presence of two chakra systems in one body is very disrupting, especially the chaotic chakra of something like the Nine Tails. Even with only half its chakra inside of him, it made molding his own chakra very difficult for Naruto. It's amazing he was able to become an accomplished shinobi at all when you think about. Didn't it ever seem strange to you that the son of 4th Hokage, the most talented shinobi in the history of our village, barely made it through the academy? Good point, never thought of it that way. Tsunade thought. I guess I never noticed the interference because it was always there. Naruto added. But I sure noticed when it was gone. Controlling my chakra and performing jutsu is so much easier now. Yes, his skills and control have improved greatly since then, and that display of speed you saw today remind you of anyone? Jiraiya asked coyly. His father. Tsunade breathed. Naruto beamed. It made his heart soar to hear her compare him to his legendary father. There's one other change, Jiraiya started. As if he didn't have enough chakra already, his chakra capacity has increased dramatically. Tsunade's eyes widened, that was to be expected given everything she had already learned, but it hadn't occurred to her to ask, it was just so much information. How much more? She asked, eyeing the young genin. It's hard to say exactly. Naruto chimed in. I certainly don't have access to all the chakra the fox had, but I'd say that I have something like 10 to 20 times what I used to. Tsunade gasped, the boy's chakra capacity and therefore his stamina were already almost legendary, but at 10 to 20 times he was a nearly bottomless pit. My god. There's no precedent for this. The techniques you could develop. Actually, I haven't quite got the hang of controlling it all just yet. Naruto interrupted. What do you mean? The Nine Tails chakra? She asked. There is no distinct Nine Tails chakra anymore, just like there's no distinct Naruto chakra either. Their chakras have merged and formed a new chakra with its own character. Jiraiya explained. That also makes sense, but he sure looked like he had control to me. She responded. Yes, well he's largely become accustomed to this new chakra, it's the amount that's the problem on occasion. You see, having more chakra than nature intended is nice of course, but his body wasn't designed for it and can only channel so much at one time. When he tries to use very large amounts of chakra for jutsu that he knows he shouldn't be doing, Jiraiya said as he shot a glance over at Naruto. He can sometimes lose control. Hey. Come on Jiraiya-sensei, I don't lose it that often. Naruto protested. Tsunade eyed Naruto with a worried look, lose control. What happens when he loses control? It's no big deal. Naruto said. It's just that sometimes the technique has a tendency to backfire on me, that's all. GS Jiraiya-sensei, no need to worry her, hasn't happened in a month. Naruto. That's nothing to sneeze at. Tsunade admonished him. Losing control of a jutsu like that can be deadly. You need to be careful until your body can handle all of that chakra of yours. Naruto knows what jutsus are still beyond him. Jiraiya assured her. And his control improves every day, I think we could all see that in today's little test. Well good, he's of no use if he goes and blows himself up. Tsunade took a moment to take everything in, then she turned back to Naruto. You've got quite a future ahead of you, Naruto Uzumaki. That's Namikaze. Naruto cut her off. Tsunade blinked, that's right isn't it? It's tradition for a son to take the name of his father, I'm told. And Jiraiya-sensei has also informed me of a family home that needs to be unsealed. Naruto broke into a wide smile. I'm going home, Tsunade. Tsunade drew herself to her full height and planted her fists on her hips, smiling back at him. Yes you are, Naruto Namikaze, welcome home. Chapter 5 The Definition of Courage. Kurenai barely heard the knock on her door, it was so faint. She walked over to the front door, placed her palm on it. Reaching out she sensed a familiar presence on the other side. Hinata. She opened the door and invited her student in. Thank you for seeing me so late, Kurenai-sensei. She said. Kurenai would have been annoyed with anyone else, but she had an unusually strong attachment to Hinata. The poor girl was almost too sweet to be a ninja, and because of it she was largely ostracized by her oppressive father Hiashi. Most Hyuga are trained solely by other members of the family to try and protect the secrets of their most prized possession, the Byakugan. But Hinata's father Hiashi thought she was so weak as to be useless and refused to waste his time training her. When Kurenai first offered to train Hinata, he told her that she was a fool for bothering right in front of the poor girl. Oh, she'd train Hinata, she decided in that moment, and she'd make sure that Hinata wiped that arrogant sneer off his face. No problem Hinata, what is it that has you out so late? She asked. Well, I know it's not really something that a student would ask a sensei, but there's really no one at my house that I can talk to about this kind of stuff, you see. Spit it out, Hinata. Hinata looked at Kurenai with a sudden sense of excitement and dread. Naruto's back, Kurenai-sensei. I need to do something, but I don't know what. Kurenai smiled in understanding. She knew about Hinata's crush on Naruto for several years now. In fact, she was a little sad when Naruto left the village because of how much fun it was to watch the two together. Hinata was so love-struck that she could barely function, and Naruto was so oblivious that he could never figure out what was wrong with her. But then the Chunin exams, Naruto took notice of Hinata then, and the attention changed her personality forever. Kurenai saw it all happen, although she didn't grasp the significance at the time. But ever since the exams, Hinata was a very different Kunoichi. She didn't give up, she didn't back down, and she worked harder than both her teammates combined. Kurenai thanked Naruto under her breath on more than occasion, watching the young girl overcome adversity, and now that he was back, she wondered what other effects his presence might have on her favorite student. Are you asking me for advice on how to get Naruto to notice you? Hinata blushed a deep red and her voice nearly disappeared. Why yes, Kurenai-sensei. Kurenai sighed. She wasn't exactly a dating machine herself. She'd tried a few, but relationships were never really her thing. Genjutsu and her life as a shinobi were her true loves. But looking into Hinata's eyes, she just couldn't say no. The poor girl really needed some help, even if it only was her confidence around boys that was the problem. Well, first of all you need to quit doing that. Kurenai said in a loud voice. Boys notice girls that make them take notice. Oh. Hinata yelped at the sudden increase in volume. I've seen you show incredible courage on the battlefield, Hinata, even risking your own life when the situation called for it. But when it comes to boys you're like a mouse, you really need to get over that. Hinata looked at her teacher and tried to straighten up. I can try, sensei. Don't try, Hinata, just do it. I just don't know if I can. I think I'm going to be okay, but then whenever I see Naruto-kun I just get dizzy and I can't speak. It's like he paralyzes me. Is there anyone you know that doesn't have that problem around the boys? A girl you know that does what you wish you could do? Hinata puzzled for a moment. Well, there is one girl, her name is Ino Yamanaka. She's always going on lots of dates and things, and she never seems to be scared of the boys. In fact, they seem more scared of her sometimes. Ino Yamanaka. Gee, as Hinata, you could sure find a lot better role model than that girl. But I suppose when it comes to manipulating boys she's as good as any. Kurenai thought. Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine that you're Ino Yamanaka the next time you see Naruto. You do what she would do, you don't do what you do. Don't do what I would do. Hinata repeated. Are you sure that will work? Of course I'm sure that'll work. Do you know how many men try to hit on me? She asked. Hinata's eyes got wide, and no, Kurenai-sensei. Is it a lot? Are you kidding? I practically have to beat them off with a stick most days. You may not know it, but your sensei is some hot shit when it comes to the boys. She stated proudly. Oh, I guess I just never knew or anything. I've never seen you with anyone. Hey, are you gonna take shots at me or take my advice? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I really do appreciate your help, sensei, I do. I just hope I can follow it when I see Naruto and make him notice me. I just need to be like Ino, right? Exactly. Now let's try a little practice run, shall we? I'll be Naruto and you're going to be Ino, got it? Oh, okay, sensei, but I don't really think I want Ino to date Naruto-kun. No. I'm going to pretend to be Naruto so you can practice pretending to be Ino for confidence, got it? Yes, I got it. Hinata answered quickly. All this talk about Naruto is making me nervous, I'm sorry. Alright, here we go. Hey Hinata, how's it going? Are you training hard? Kurenai Naruto asked. Yes, I mean Naruto-kun. How about you? Are you training, huh? Oh yeah. Kurenai Naruto cut in. I've been training like crazy, I'm so strong, look at my muscles. Huh. Yeah. Grrr. Kurenai was flexing her biceps for all she was worth. She looked up at her student who was now just staring at her with a crooked look on her face. Kurenai realized how ridiculous she must look and couldn't help cracking a smile. Hinata's face contorted even more as she struggled to stop the corners of her lips from turning up. Kurenai tried not to breath, but her diaphragm forced a chuckle through her constricted throat and it came out sounding like something between a snort and a hiccup. Both girls instantly lost all control and fell to the floor laughing hysterically. Oh my god, sensei. Boys really are like that, aren't they? Hinata squealed. Oh my, yes they are. They're so pathetic. Kurenai laughed so hard she could barely catch her breath. She tried in vain to wipe the tears from her eyes. Oh crap, that didn't really work out so well, did it? She looked over at Hinata and saw real relief for the first time on the girl's face. Well, that's something then, isn't it? She thought. The poor thing, she's never had a mother or any other women to talk to about these things. Hinata's finally got control of her giggles. Thank you, Kurenai-sensei, I feel a lot better now. I guess I just needed someone to talk to, it's always so hard for me to express my feelings, you know. I know, Hinata, believe me, I've been there. So do you think you're going to be okay? I think so, I'll just pretend that I'm Ino, but only for confidence, right? Right? Kurenai smiled. There's one other thing, of course, have you given any thought to what you're going to do if Naruto tries to kiss you? Hinata started turning a bright red again. Oh god, no. I don't think he would ever want to do that, Kurenai-sensei. Aha. You're not thinking like Ino, are you? Ino would expect Naruto to try and kiss her and would have decided what she was going to do about even before the date. But you really think I'm pretty enough for him that he would want to kiss me? Kurenai's face suddenly contorted in dismay. Hinata. That's it, girl. I've heard more than enough of this shit. Get over in front of that mirror right now. She yelled. Hinata's face went rigid and she ran in front of the mirror as she was instructed. Now take off that hockey jersey you're hiding behind. Hinata unzipped her jacket and threw it on the floor. Ditch the shirt. Hinata glanced over at her sensei. My shirt. Your shirt? She replied loudly. Hinata complied and took off her shirt, throwing it on top of the jacket. She crossed her arms across her chest, instinctively feeling the cool air of the room on her chest. And the pants. Hinata threw a wide-eyed stare over at Kurenai this time, but she could see her sensei meant business. Hinata gulped hard and pulled her pants down, she tossed them aside and stared at the floor. Now, Kurenai said gently as she walked over behind Hinata. Look at the girl in the mirror. Hinata raised her head slightly and glanced up at her reflection, feeling exposed and embarrassed. Kurenai took Hinata's hair in hands and started gathering it together. Look up, Hinata, and don't be embarrassed, put your arms down and look at yourself. Hinata slowly raised her head straight up and watched Kurenai finish putting her hair up into a simple bun. Kurenai produced a chopstick out of nowhere and put it through the bun to hold it in place. With a nod she stepped back. So, do you see her? She asked. Hinata looked at the girl in the mirror, wearing nothing but her underwear. She was exposed, she was vulnerable, she was beautiful. Her toned legs swept up to her curvaceous hips, her tiny waist and flat stomach gave definition and support to her large supple breasts. With her hair up, her large lavender eyes exploded with definition, and the wisps of hair that escaped Kurenai's bun hung down, emphasizing the delicate curves of her long neck. Hinata's eyes misted over. She's beautiful, Kurenai-sensei. Do you know what the definition of courage is, Hinata? The definition? The definition of courage is to face that which you truly fear. And I know that when the time is right, your courage will conquer all your fears. Hinata smiled at the girl in the mirror, she widened her stance and threw her hands to her hips. You're right, Kurenai-sensei. I am beautiful, and I am courageous, and I'm going to make Naruto mine. Good for you, Hinata. Now get your clothes on, people are gonna think weirder things are going on in here than there already are. Oh. Yes, sensei. Oh, and one other thing, if really want to land a boy you have to dress for the occasion. Chapter 6. Home at last. Now where is it? Naruto asked himself. He was walking down Fudo Street looking for the address Tsunade had given him. A bit off the beaten path. Fudo was once prime real estate in Konoha, many of the homes had held audience to the most notable shinobi of the day. But as the natural expansion of the village pulled the town center farther and farther away from Fudo Street, it and the surrounding areas fell on hard times. Naruto, of course, was blissfully unaware of Fudo's colorful history as he came to a stop in front of an obviously abandoned house. So this is it? Naruto shouted. Oh man, this is it. He stood in front of what was his parents' home, the Namikaze family home. It was totally overgrown by weeds and brush, and the color was difficult to distinguish because of the thick layer of dirt covering the outside. There were boards in all the windows, and a rusty gate out front swung in the breeze hanging from its last hinge. Tsunade had told him that the home was cleaned once in a while, but standing here in front of the evidence, Naruto was beginning to doubt that very much. Wow, this is dirty even for my standards. He said, giving a low whistle. As he entered the yard, Naruto could see the house itself a little better. It certainly wasn't a large home, maybe 4 bedrooms from the look of it. Tsunade had told him that the 3rd Hokage had the entire property cleaned and sealed immediately after the 4th Hokage's death. As far as anyone outside a privileged few knew, the property belonged to an extinct family and would have been auctioned off by the village. But the 3rd had held the property in his family trust and made sure it stayed unoccupied, waiting for its rightful owner. Walking up to the door, Naruto wondered for a moment if he would have any memories of this place, but no, they never had a chance to bring him home. He inserted the key and gave it a twist, with an audible clack. The old lock gave way. He pushed the door open and peered inside. There wasn't much light entering the home because of the boarded windows, but what did make it in was only enough to give the space a creepy horror movie kind of look. The furniture was covered in plastic, and a thick layer of dust covered absolutely everything. It had obviously not been cleaned recently. Tsunade walked inside the home and found himself in the great room. The kitchen was open and visible from here to the right, and a hallway to his left obviously lead off to the bedrooms. Straight across the room was a large set of doors that looked like they opened out to the back. Well, I better get started, he thought. Naruto went outside and around the house, taking down all the boards that had been nailed over the windows. There was one window that was broken, so he left it boarded up. When he re-entered he could see much better thanks to all the natural daylight, but somehow it actually made the dingy house look slightly worse. He decided that exploring the structure was going to take priority over cleaning it up to see if he could find anything that might have been left by his parents. He went slowly cataloging everything he saw in his mind, looking for anything personal that might give him a feeling of his parents. The first find took only a few moments. In the great room above the fireplace hung a frame with a blanket over it. When Naruto pulled down the dusty old blanket he was rewarded with a large picture, thought he didn't know it at the time it would be the only portrait of his parents together that he would ever see. The portrait showed his parents dressed in their formal shinobi uniforms. His father wore a traditional blue Konoha uniform, complete with the trademark sandy gray vest wrapped in a white cloak, and his mother wore a less traditional black and mesh kunoichi uniform with a brown cloak that covered only her left shoulder. Though he had never seen her likeness before there was no doubt about her identity. She was beautiful, her short red hair fell forward covering one of her eyes, and despite her warm smile, she looked determined and dangerous. His father stood to her back looking over his shoulder at the camera, his spiky blonde hair reminded Naruto of his own, and so did his eyes. How did I miss it? Naruto asked himself. The similarities were so obvious now of course, but he never would have seen it back when he was younger anyways. He only had a mind for the future and cared nothing for a past that he tried every day to forget. It's so strange how some things change. He thought. I wonder what they were like. After cleaning up the portrait a bit he continued his search through the house and turned up two other interesting items. The first was a large steel door located in the back of an office, some kind of vault. It was securely locked, so he would have to ask the fifth about that. The other was in a closet, there hanging for the last 17 years still covered in plastic from the cleaners were two white cloaks with flames caressing the bottom hem. Naruto recognized them instantly as his father's from the picture in the great room. He considered putting one on but couldn't decide. What would people think? Naruto looked at himself in the mirror. He had updated his trademark orange and black jumpsuit, but still, it just looked shabby compared to his father's image. He did want to change his image, and changing on the outside might help people see his change on the inside. Well dad, how about I just take the hint and update my wardrobe? Naruto asked the mirror. The only answer he got was his own sneeze and pick up some cleaning supplies while I'm at it. Naruto entered the supply shop with a little bit of hesitation. Hello? He called out. In here you idiot came the gruff reply. Ibiki Marino Naruto sighed. Now I remember why I never come in here. Ibiki had been the instructor in charge of the first phase of his sabotage Chunin exams 3 years prior. The psychological test was designed to weed out shinobi who couldn't gather information surreptitiously in a controlled setting, as Ibiki would call it. Naruto called it sneaky crap 101 for ninja who couldn't cut it on the battlefield. Naruto passed the test without completing any single task at all. He simply sweated it out and stubbornly refused to leave, exposing the single flaw in Ibiki's test. When Ibiki found out that Naruto passed his master test by doing nothing at all, he realized how pointless it really was and never told anyone. Naruto on the other hand told everyone he knew how he beat old man Ibiki's sneaky crap test with one hand tied behind his back. Word got out the most clueless ninja of the year outsmarted Ibiki, and the other instructors never let him live it down. By the next year his test had been replaced by a surfing contest at the hidden village of the wave, and Ibiki retired in embarrassment. I wonder what they did the year after that. Naruto always wondered. He had heard the exams rotated to the village hidden in the rocks the next year. You haven't even been in the village for the last 3 years from what I hear, that's why you never come in here idiot. Naruto walked up to the counter and looked the retired jounin in the eye, still upset about the Chunin exams huh? I would have thought a big tough shinobi like you would have thicker skin than that. It was just one question and you didn't answer it. You didn't answer any of the questions. You didn't even try to copy any answers from another student. I never should have passed an idiot like you. He growled. Well how about you make a halfway decent ninja out of me with some proper new attire? Naruto asked. You have money? You bet. I haven't had too many places to spend my wages lately and well why didn't you say so? Ibiki exploded. What's your size? Men's large by now right? Medium? Of course, these right here. And that vest is all the rage these days with the kunoichi. Can't go without that. No wait Naruto tried, but it was too late. The whirlwind that was Ibiki was often shopping without him. Man I hope he grabs me a traditional blue Naruto said to himself dejectedly. As Naruto exited the store he couldn't even see over the top of all his baggage. I can't believe Ibiki got me to buy so much stuff. He said. Oh crap the top one's moving. The top one's moving. Naruto danced to the right trying to keep the ridiculous stack from falling when he ran straight into some poor bystander. A miniature mountain collapsed in on him and Naruto was buried in his own purchases along with a few of the unfortunate strangers. Oh. And Naruto-kun. A familiar voice stuttered. Are you okay? Anata-chan. Naruto barked as he popped up through pile. I'm so sorry I ran into you. I think I overdid it on my shopping trip," he said with a sheepish smile. "Thank you, come again idiot." A voice rang out from the shop. "Oh." Hinata gasped looking in the direction of Rude's storefront. "What was?" "Oh, that's nothing, Hinata-chan, don't pay any attention." Naruto answered her unfinished question. "It's an inside joke, we go way back, the shop owner and I, hehehe. Thanks a lot, Ibiki. Now we're even." Naruto turned back to Hinata eager to change the subject, say, "I've been meaning to talk to you again anyways to set up the time to train together, are you still up for that?" "Why yes of course Naruto-kun." She replied blushing slightly. "Damn it. I'm still blushing like an idiot, I haven't had enough time yet to practice in front of the mirror." Naruto studied Hinata for the second time since returning to the village and found himself taken aback by her delicate features yet again. He couldn't exactly put his finger on it, but there was something about her she looked away to avoid his gaze as Naruto's brain registered the awkward pause and prompted him to speak. "So guess what?" he said, not really sure what he was going to say. Hinata looked up, "What is it, Naruto-kun?" "Whoa. I'll tell you what it is, it's a house. I own a house," he said triumphantly. "Really?" she asked, her shyness forgotten for a moment. "It's all yours." "You bet. I'm on my way there now to get it cleaned up. You've got to come with and check it out." "Sure," Hinata stammered. "If you want to show me, that is." "Yes." Her mind screamed, "Invite us over and take advantage of us. We've got some lingerie in that bag right over there." Hinata lunged toward Naruto and the pile of shopping bags so quickly that Naruto thought for a moment the training was already beginning. He jumped backwards out of the pile and landed 5 meters away in a classic defensive stance, only to see Hinata grab several bags and loose items and turn around quickly to pack them back up. "I'd love to see your place," she called over her shoulder. "Great." Naruto beamed. "Do you need any help with your stuff?" Hinata turned beet red and began repacking her purchases even faster. "No thanks, I've got it, Naruto-kun, just some cloths and things," she said, trailing off. He looked down at the remaining pile of baggage. I don't suppose you could help me carry some of my stuff, could you? I still need to get cleaning supplies." Once they got back to the house, Naruto created 20 shadow clones to help with the cleaning and gave each of them their orders. About half took the outside and the other half would tackle the inside with Naruto and Hinata. Naruto smirked to himself that many would have taken a little out of him before, but now it was just a drop in the bucket. Hinata looked wide-eyed at small army of Narutos. "Oh my god, is it sexy when he does that." They decided to take the kitchen while the clones took the rest of house, so Hinata began cleaning out the cupboards out while Naruto started on the floor. He was about to start mixing some detergent when he watched her stretch for an old coffee mug on the top shelf that looked just out of her reach. On her tiptoes, Hinata had her attention focused squarely on the old mug, because of this she neither sensed nor heard Naruto approach from behind. When she felt Naruto's hand touch the small of her back, she instantly tensed, not sure what to do, but definitely not wanting his hand to leave. She didn't move at all. "Let me help you with that," Naruto said as he moved up closer behind her. With one hand still on Hinata's back, he reached up to grab the old mug for her. As his hand found the cool porcelain, he was also forced to stretch upward and his body drew up against hers in the process. "Oh my god," Hinata's mind raced and she closed her eyes, reveling in feeling Naruto's body pressed up against hers. She could feel the lean muscles in his chest and stomach moving against her, while his hips spooned her behind with a delicious constant pressure. Her eyes started to glaze over when her stomach began performing its all too familiar somersaults. "Oh shit." Naruto didn't want to be a rude host, so he dashed over to help Hinata with the mug. He had placed his hand on her instinctively as he reached up, but as he grabbed the cup, he realized that he had just trapped her body between his own and the countertop and that his innocent help had just become very personal. His mind seemed to abandon his other senses as it focused every shred of consciousness on the touch Hinata. She felt warm and soft against his harder and more chiseled frame, the gentle curve of her back pressed lightly against his stomach, but her shapely behind arched out and pressed firmly against his hips. As she shifted slightly underneath him, he realized he could feel every movement in her entire body. Reflexively he pulled the mug down and he felt her relax and lean back against him, increasing the pressure. Naruto's mind exploded with sensory overload as she slowly slid down his chest, his stomach, his legs. Thud. "Hinata. Hinata, are you okay?" Hinata sipped at the water Naruto brought her. "I'm sorry I passed out, Naruto-kun," she apologized. "Yeah right," she thought. "You shouldn't be apologizing to him, you should be apologizing to your poor neglected body." "Hey, no problem, Hinata-chan," Naruto said. "Just means I get to spend more time with you, right? And the clones don't mind taking care of the kitchen." He glanced over the top of the couch to see 3 shadow clones giving him the finger. Naruto's eyes narrowed and one of them suddenly burst from existence, the other 2 jumped back to cleaning with a vengeance. He turned back to his guest. "Besides, I remember you used to have that problem a lot when you were a kid, guess you haven't quite grown out of it." Naruto chuckled inwardly, so that's why she always fainted around him. How was I ever so clueless? He thought. Ever since merging with the Nine Tails and taking his ninja training more seriously, he had focused on something that had never occurred to him before, his mind. Aside from studying the art of seals with Jiraiya-sensei, he had spent a lot of time learning how to see what Kakashi would have called that, which was underneath Hinata was obviously interested in him, which was good since he was obviously interested in her. But he could clearly see now that she had been infatuated with him since they were little kids, amazing. Seeing Naruto lost in thought, Hinata interrupted the silence, so how did you get this place? Naruto hesitated for a moment and thought about how to answer that. Tsunade'd never said anything about that. I've been kept a secret from the entire village for all these years, should I not say anything? Naruto looked over at her with a thoughtful look on his face. If you promise you can keep a secret, I'll tell you, Hinata, because I trust you, but for now I'd prefer if you didn't tell people you knew anything until I have a chance to ask the fifth what I should do. He said. Hinata beamed. First he pinned me in the kitchen, now he's going to trust me with a secret between him and the Hokage. This is best day of my life. Take a look at the picture above the fireplace, tell me what you see, Naruto said. Hinata stood up and walked over the portrait. It was of two shinobi, a man and a woman. She had red hair, almond-shaped eyes, and a beautifully mysterious look. The man was downright smoking. He wore a traditional uniform and a very fetching white cloak. What a hot tie. She thought. This guy could give Naruto-kun a run for his money, strong chin, gorgeous face, and that long spiky blonde hair just covering his deep blue eyes, Hinata gasped. So you see it? Naruto asked. She turned to look at Naruto again and then back at the portrait, there was no mistaking it. She would have missed it before, but with his face being more defined and his hair being longer now than when they were kids, it hung just in front of those same deep blue eyes. Naruto-kun. Isuo is that man? My father. He finished for her. But you were an orphan. How did you find them? Who are they? She rambled, there were so many questions racing through her mind. Why were you alone your whole life? They're dead. He said flatly. She stopped with a sharp intake of air, of course. That's why he's an orphan, you idiot. Oh, I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun, she stammered. Naruto flashed a big smile. Hey, don't worry about it, Hinata-chan. I've lived my entire life without them and I turned out fine. I have lots of people in my life now, Kakashi-sensei, my teammates, Jiraiya-sensei, and you. Hinata blushed wildly at that last part. He actually said she was part of his life. She could feel her temperature start to rise. Show your courage, Hinata. Tell him how you feel. Or better yet, show him how you feel. Just jump on top of him, rip his clothes off and show him. That's what that slut Ino would do. Her mind screamed. But now I've found them now, and I guess that's all I could ask for. Naruto said. There's not a lot left here at the house, but I plan on doing some research to find out more when I have time. Hinata shook her head trying to clear it out. Do you know their names? Their names are Minato and Kushina, but remember not to tell anyone that yet. He said. She nodded in response. Minato and Kushina, that sounds so familiar, where do I know those names from? Oh wow, look at that, it's getting late, did you want to get some dinner or something? What time is it? Hinata asked wildly. It's 8, damn it. I have to get home soon for my cousin's graduation ceremony. But that's okay, it just gives me more time to get ready. Now, how would Ino leave him? Wanting. That's how she'd leave him. Oh god, I hope I can do this. With her heart racing, Hinata smiled and walked straight toward him. She got just slightly too close and gently placed her hand on Naruto's chest. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, I really have to get going for the night, it's a family thing I can't get out of. Did you still want to train together sometime? Naruto blushed a deep red. Sure. He stammered. That's great, Naruto-kun, we've been in a standby mode anyways. There's a training ground on the north side of the Chunin training area that I know we can use. She replied. More like I know we'll be alone, she thought, smiling. Perfect. Naruto said. Why is she smiling like that? Hinata gave him one last glance and walked over to the door. When she got there, she looked at him and waited for him to get the door. Naruto realized what she was waiting for and raced over to open it. As she walked out to the sidewalk, his eyes wandered down to her shapely behind. Wow, as the pervy sage would say, she looks as good going as she does see. Aw man. I finally get what that means. That guy really is a perv. Grinning ear to ear, Hinata began her walk home. When she heard the door close, she turned to make sure he wasn't watching. Yes, 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 yes. She screamed in a whisper, jumping up and down. I did it. I did it. I found my courage. Suddenly she remembered something important, Byakugan. With her Byakugan activated, she could see inside the house and observe its lone occupant. Naruto was fixing himself a cup of ramen for dinner. Gold, still glowing a faint gold. She couldn't understand it. Every time she looked at Naruto with her Byakugan, all she could clearly see was a golden glow. She tried to recall everything she knew about the mechanics of the Byakugan. Normally chakra looked blue to the Byakugan, she had never seen any other color, not only that, but most shinobi only showed chakra flow when they were using jutsu, yet Naruto seemed to have some chakra flowing through his body, even when he was relaxing. But the more disturbing thing was how his golden chakra seemed to blur in her vision, the flow was difficult to understand, and his chakra points were hard to pin down. Her eyes darted to the left, and what was that weird room? Across the street crouching in the bushes, Sakura watched Hinata carefully. She had been headed home from the Hokage's tower when she saw Hinata exiting the abandoned house, well what she thought was an abandoned house. She was actually about to call out to her and wave when she realized what house she was looking at, and her curiosity got the better of her. Abandoned since she could remember, she and her friends had joked about the ghosts that must have haunted old place to keep it empty for so many years, it had even been the subject of a few dares. But it wasn't abandoned anymore, there in the doorway waving to the departing Kunoichi was Naruto. What the hell is going on? She whispered to herself. And what is Hinata jumping up and down for? For that matter, what are they doing together in the first place? Did that idiot buy a house? How could he afford that? And why did he invite her over and not me? I'm his teammate. This was annoying, Sakura hated being left out of anything, not to mention the fact Naruto had spent his entire childhood trying to date her, and now he was back in town one day and already entertaining other girls behind her back. You're being ridiculous, Sakura. She told herself. You're not interested in Naruto anyways, it doesn't matter how much he's changed. Sasuke is still out there and he's your true love. Satisfied with her logic, she nodded to herself and headed the other way. Guess I'll take the scenic route home. Chapter 7 Hinata's Wild Side. Hinata needed to get dressed. She finished toweling off from her shower and walked over to the closet. Tossing the towel aside, she stared at her naked self in the mirror, she'd been doing that most of the night. If she could be comfortable with herself naked, then there was nothing that should bother her, she reasoned. Actually, the more time she spent naked the more she found she preferred it. Early in the evening she just walked past the mirror every few minutes. But by the time she actually went to bed she was flexing, posing, and checking out every angle of her newly discovered body. It was like a dam burst, and her lifetime of repression just came gushing out. It was just so delicious being so naughty. Giving herself one last wink, she opened the closet doors to reveal her ninja attire, pants, shirts, belts and jackets. The naked Kunoichi smiled and shoved the cloths aside. Reaching back behind them she found the shopping bag she had hidden the night before. She wasn't going to wear her normal uniform on her first day training with Naruto. She rifled through the bags and pulled out 2 pairs of underwear, a sexy but conservative black pair and a racy red thong. She couldn't decide between the two in the store and she wasn't having any more luck this morning. Okay, she said to herself. What's the purpose of today? The purpose of today is to get Naruto-kun to fall in love with me, her eyes settled on the black pair. Or lust, whichever comes first. She grabbed the thong and pulled it on. Whoa. Gonna have to get used to the feel of that. She thought. She grabbed the new Kunoichi shorts next. They were much sleeker and form-fitting than her normal pants, but more importantly they revealed much more leg. She slid into them admiring the silky feeling of the new material against her skin. Wow, these are nice, I should have tried them years ago. She thought. Hinata looked at herself in the mirror and turned around to see how Sho looked from behind, very Nissa's tight, no muffin top. Next she reached into the bag and pulled out a little black bra, pulling it on and clasping the back she grabbed her breasts and tugged them into proper position. They were nearly spilling out of the tiny garment, so she twisted and jiggled a bit just to make sure nothing would pop out before she wanted. She then donned her normal black mesh top and strapped up her new knee-high boots. She finished the outfit by taping her kunai holder to her left leg and jumped in front of the mirror. I have to admit, she said taking in the new Hinata. I look hot. The new boots and shorts framed her thighs very nicely and the mesh top did nothing to hide her washboard stomach and ample breasts. It was actually a little sluttier than she anticipated. Perfect. If this doesn't do nothing will. She proclaimed. Grabbing her normal oversized jacket and zipping it all the way up she headed out the door, better not to let her family see her like this. Naruto unwrapped his new cloths, traditional blue with the exception of a slate gray vest. Thank you Ibiki, he got dressed quickly and looked in the mirror. Looks good. He told himself. It was the same basic thing Kakashi and Iruka wore, in fact most ninja in Konoha wore this uniform. But something just seemed missing, with one last frown at his reflection he walked over to the closet and threw open the door. Naruto stared at his father's cloaks, it was one of those questions with no right answers. Would wearing the cloak honor his father or insult his memory? Had he earned it yet? What would Minato want? Giving up on logic, Naruto decided to follow his instincts. Well Dad, I don't know if I can live up to your legacy, but we are about the same size. He grabbed a cloak and threw it over his shoulders. Hooking the quick release clasp he walked past the mirror without bothering to look. Ino was working her family's flower shop, being a ninja took up most of her time, but the family business was something she had been involved with ever since she was a little girl, and she did love it. She was just tending to some yellow roses when she saw a young man looking in the window. Who's that? She thought to herself, he's cute. Maneuvering around the tulip, she tried to get a closer look. He was wearing a white cloak, and his thick blonde hair was partially obscuring his face, being held up only by his forehead protector. He's a ninja. She realized, but that's a leaf symbol and he looks my age, who in the world is he? The young shinobi suddenly backed away from the window and continued down the street. Ino rushed over to the door and stuck her head outside to get a good look at the retreating stranger. It was difficult to tell much more about him from the back, but his stride was smooth and confident. She wanted to run after him and introduce herself, but she couldn't leave the shop unattended. Ino was forced to watch him disappear into the crowd. I just had to be working today, didn't I? Kurenai was reviewing her latest mission reports. She didn't mind paperwork as much as most shinobi, but was no fun either. She found that working on these kinds of things outside in a pleasant spot like the cafe around the corner from her apartment made the medicine much easier to swallow. Something white caught her eye and she looked up. When her eyes focused on the object of interest, she drew in a sharp breath and held it. There just 30 meters away walked the spitting image of her girlhood crush, the fourth Hokage. She rubbed her eyes to make sure she wasn't seeing things. No, definitely real. He had been dead for nearly 16 years of course, but the Joker playing Halloween over there was obviously live and well. What an ass. She thought angrily. Nobody's worn a white fire cloak like that since the fourth Hokage died. Just who does this guy think he is? In a flash of smoke her chair was empty. No way I'm getting her flowers, Naruto thought. It's training, not a date. I'd look like a complete tool. He sensed the movement but couldn't quite locate it. Naruto tensed as an explosion of smoke erupted directly in front him, the trademark result of a body flicker jutsu. He'd know the identity of his fellow shinobi in just a moment. Relax, Naruto, you're not being attacked by enemy ninja in the middle of the street. He told himself. As the smoke cleared he could see two shapely legs resolve themselves. His eyes tracked up and the bare skin gave way to black and white wrappings that disappeared into what would have otherwise been a way too short matching black and white skirt. The stripes continued up the entire length of her outfit, which was finished off with red sleeves. Her jet black hair hung over her shoulders and framed a unique set of red eyes. He recognized Kurenai, the leader of teammate Hinata's team. The problem was she wasn't saying anything. She's just staring at me. I guess I better say something. Hi Kurenai-sensei. What can I do for you? Naruto asked cheerfully. Kurenai didn't respond. My god, he looks just like the fourth. She thought. He was too young to actually be the fourth, of course, she could see that. But the face, hair, and even his eyes. As she studied his face her brain finally suggested a solution to the mystery. Naruto. Is that you? Who did you think it was? Kurenai-sensei. I just got back from traveling with Uraya-sensei yesterday morning and now I'm off to get a little training in with Hinata-chan. She did tell you, didn't she? He asked. Kurenai blinked. Hinata had stopped by her house the night before, but she failed to mention he looked like this. He was taller than she was now, and looking anything like the fourth Hokage was a huge plus. She, like most kunoichi in the village back then, spent many afternoons dreaming about that smile. So this is Naruto, huh? How is it possible that Hinata is the only one who saw this kid? Hey, Naruto, it's nice to see you, but I think I need to let in on something, she said. That cloak you're wearing, no one in this village has worn anything like it for some time. You see, the fourth Hokage used to wear one just like it, and ever since his sacrifice people stopped wearing them. That surprised Naruto. Really? That explains the stares. Maybe this is just a ticket then, people are going to find out sooner or later. I don't think he'd mind. Naruto stated simply. If that's all, I really have to get going. I don't want to keep Hinata-chan waiting. And with that Naruto walked around Kurenai and started towards the training grounds. What is that supposed to mean? She wondered. But the curious genin had just walked off without so much as an apology for insulting the memory of the fourth Hokage, and her curiosity was quickly replaced by something else. Why that little disrespectful shit? She spun around, her red eyes flashing. Naruto Uzumaki. You hold it right there. Kurenai shouted, gathering the attention of a few passers-by. She was going to teach that kid some respect if she had to beat his ass. Naruto stopped, turned around and saw Kurenai rapidly approaching. She's not going to let this go, is she? Let's see how she reacts to this. That's my mother's name. He said. You can call me Naruto Namikaze. Kurenai froze in her tracks and looked into Naruto's eyes with a display of surprise and utter shock that he would never again see on her face. That did it. He smirked. Naruto spun on one heel and headed out to the training grounds. Hinata was waiting at the rarely used training ground. She had been there for 20 minutes now, but she was 15 minutes early, so she couldn't really blame anyone but herself for that one. Just try not to look too desperate when he gets here. Hey Hinata-chan. Naruto called out. He entered the clearing and started walking toward her, giving a wave. Hinata started to wave back but then pulled her hand down. Who the hell? She thought. She worried she might be in the wrong place for a moment because the young man who entered the training area didn't look anything like Naruto. But as he drew nearer, Hinata recognized him. Oh my god, jackpot baby. She drank in the new Naruto. He finally ditched the old orange and black jumpsuit, not that there was anything wrong with him before of course, and he wore a white cloak with flames that surrounded the bottom edges. He looked incredibly handsome and dangerous at the same time. Her knees began to get weak and she was already having trouble forming words. He changed himself for me. Hold it together, Hinata, if you pass out on him right now I will never forgive you. Find your courage. I'm here, Naruto-kun. She called out. Her blush must be visible from the other side of the forest, she realized. As he approached he could see that Hinata had changed from her normal ninja attire as well. She still had on her jacket, but her loose pants and worn shoes had been replaced by form-fitting shorts and knee-high boots that really showed off her legs. Nice, Hinata-chan. He thought to himself. When did you ever get those legs? So how did you want to start today? He asked. By tearing your clothes off and performing an in-depth physical. Some light sparring should get us warmed up. She replied. Sounds good, I'll let you attack first, but I've got to warn you, I've gotten a lot faster and stronger than before. And I don't just let my sparring partners win even if they are beautiful kunoichi. Hinata blushed again, sure thing Naruto, but I've got to warn you, I know just how to handle shinobi like you. What? Byakugan. The trademark technique of the Hyuga clan manifested itself in her eyes, and massive arteries bulged around the outsides of them to feed the massive additional blood flow they now required, and the normal lavender color faded to an almost flat white. She used her enhanced vision to analyze his expressions, trying to see what he was thinking. He wasn't kidding, his face showed no fear or doubt, and even thought it was still blurry somehow she could tell his unique golden chakra flowed smoothly throughout his body. She still couldn't make out his chakra points, which was a problem. The gentle fist fighting of her family relied on required that she be able to make those out. Oh well, I'm not really here to spar anyway, she grinned. Naruto took up a defensive stance. Anytime you're ready, Hinata-chan. Hinata started trembling. This was it, now or never. Kurenai's voice echoed through her mind. You've got to dress for the occasion, Hinata, so, do you see her? She thought back to the mirror and to the girl staring back at her. She was so beautiful. Hinata found herself captivated with her eyes that seemed to stare right through her, eyes that were filled with lust. A rush of heat enveloped her, and Hinata couldn't tell anymore if she was looking into the mirror or looking out. The girl in the mirror came alive. Hinata's hands suddenly stopped trembling. I hope you don't mind my first technique. She smiled. I use it for distraction when fighting certain very special opponents. She grabbed the zipper of her jacket and stared right through Naruto as she pulled it down. Naruto swallowed hard. Did she just say what he thought she just said? He couldn't see anything but Hinata now, and later he would swear that he could make out the sound of each individual tooth of the zipper as it peeled open. The folds of her jacket parted and more of the black mesh top came into view. When it reached the bottom, Naruto could clearly see her bare midriff, perfectly flat and soft. He was paralyzed. She smiled at him as she slid the jacket off her shoulders, revealing her new outfit. Naruto's knees lost all will to hold him steady. The black mesh top didn't conceal anything, in fact it only accentuated her supple physique as it was probably 2 sizes too small, and her creamy white skin was straining against every thread. Not the typically hard and rocky body of a ninja, Hinata had soft curves and glowing skin that beckoned him at every turn. His eyes settled on her breasts, barely concealed by the tiny black bra. He could hardly believe the size of them. They were nearly pouring out of the abused garment as it was, and the match hadn't even begun. Nor did the flimsy material do anything to hide her already hardening. Naruto completely lost track of his surroundings and what was happening. Hinata giggled looking over at the statuesque Naruto. I guess that means he likes me. In a flash she charged, channeling chakra to her hand. She prepared to attack Naruto's first chakra points, but she still couldn't make them out. Damn it. Even if he doesn't move, this might do nothing at all. Fortunately for Hinata, he didn't move, or more precisely he couldn't move. She struck out at his shoulder for one of the easier, less dangerous chakra points. Using only her fingertips she reached out for the point that she knew must be there and discharged a burst of her own chakra. If her aim was true, the result would disable that point on Naruto's body for hours. The impact rocked Naruto back and broke him partially out of his reverie. Holy shit. I didn't even see her attack. He tried to block the next attack, but it struck his stomach. Too slow. Gotta concentrate. Oh my god, look at her be erg. Naruto was struck again. Hinata didn't know how long that he would be spellbound by her breasts, but she would take as long as she could get. Take 'em in, sweetie. Then you can just take them after the fight. Hinata could feel the heat of her own blush. My god, I really am dirty, aren't I? Finally Naruto began to move, he leaped backwards to avoid her advance and tried to assess his situation. Okay, I absolutely can't concentrate, I've already been struck 4 or 5 times by the gentle fist, but I feel fine, which must mean that she missed all my chakra points. How is that possible? I know Hinata isn't the most skilled in her clan, but I was practically standing still. She would have to be as distracted as me to miss like that. His thoughts were interrupted by her next attack. Again he was just able to avoid the attack, but didn't know how to counter. He couldn't just haul off and slug her now, could he? He had never fought a half-naked Kanachi before, but he was positive that it was bad manners to punch her in the face. With his reflexes returning to normal, avoiding her attacks completely was becoming easy. Besides, she seemed to be much clumsier than he remembered, and she wasn't hurting him even with the attacks that connected. Damn it. My tits aren't working on him anymore. He's moving too fast now, and I haven't hit any of his chakra points. This is just no use, I can't get to him. Wait, remember the Chunin exams, don't give up, keep trying, keep trying. She lunged forward again, but he ducked under the left hook and flashed up, being only inches from her. Now he could have done anything he wanted, a punch to abdomen, a kick to the kidneys, a Rasengan to anything, but none of these things were really options. He just couldn't. With no other option presenting itself, Naruto grabbed her wrists and held on tightly. Hinata jerked back to try and free herself, but to no avail. With a wild look in her eyes she pulled back as hard as she could, but Naruto's grip remained firm and she recoiled back to him. Despite her best efforts, she felt her breasts, her most effective weapon thus far, graze against his chest. Her brain registering the contact, Hinata stopped struggling and looked up at him. Naruto's grip slacked. She gazed into his blue eyes. Well, look at that, I guess they are still working. Where is that little shit? Sakura muttered under her breath. Tsunade suggested she find Naruto this morning and schedule some time for them start training together again. The village was short on elite combat teams, and the 5th was hoping to see Team Kakashi back together as soon as possible, but so far Naruto was nowhere to be found. My teammate is gone for 3 years, the same teammate that hit on me nearly every day of his life, and he practically vanishes as soon he gets back. And then there was that little episode with Hinata. What was that anyways? Since when does Hinata Pig get more face time than me? She can't even stay fucking conscious around him. Erg. Sakura was so angry that she almost didn't notice Kurenai until she ran her over. Oh. I'm so sorry, Kurenai-sensei. Are you okay? Kurenai seemed totally spaced out, she was staring up at nothing for some reason, but Sakura's bump seemed to wake her up a bit. Sakura. Sakura. Sakura looked at her out of one eye. What? You're Naruto's teammate. She yelped excitedly. Sakura deflated at the sound of his name. Who wasn't having Naruto problems? Questions. Where the hell was he? I have some questions I need to ask you about Naruto. Have you talked to him much since he got back with Jiraiya-sama? I thought that maybe yo. Nope. Sakura cut her off. I couldn't even tell you what direction you might find him. Some teammate, huh? Oh, well, he's training with Hinata over near the Chunin ground somewhere today. What I need to know is, he what? Sakura screamed, pulling on her gloves. Ditching me again, is he? I'm going to show him what being a teammate is all about. Calm down right now. Kurenai yelled, grabbing at the overpowered Kunoichi. Good lord, she's really overreacting about this whole teammate thing. Get a grip, girl. It sounds like we both need to talk to him. We'll go to the training grounds together and find out what's going on with him. Kurenai stated excitedly. You can ask him about teamwork and I can ask him about what the hell he meant about his name. Come on, let's go. Damn, I can't afford any witnesses, Sakura thought as she was being dragged away. As the two started down the street, she glanced up towards the empty space she had found Kurenai staring. Hokage Mountain, and what about his name? That's it. They're not here. An exasperated Sakura screamed. Wait. There's one more area, it's just over that hill, no one ever uses it. Kurenai stormed ahead towards the indicated terrain. Sakura responded. As they walked on, the trees thickened and the terrain got rocky. I'm done, let's just go back to the village, she whined. Shhhh. Kurenai hushed her. I hear something. Sakura's ears perked up, she and Kurenai got low and stalked in toward the secluded training ground in the kind of silence only a very nosy couple of ninja could achieve. The sounds got louder as they got closer, moving from indistinguishable sounds to voices, short and muffled. Tukun, Hinata. Reaching a large boulder near the edge of the clearing, they both peered over the top at the same time to see the torrid scene. A large coat was tossed aside on the grass, a white cloak was hanging from a tree branch, and a sandy gray ninja vest was on the ground below it. The vest was currently busy acting as a cushion for the most scantily clad version of Hinata Sakura could ever have imagined. But what caused her eyes to dilate and throat to close was that Hinata was also currently very busy acting as a cushion for a very lean and very shirtless Naruto. He was lying on top of her, kissing Hinata with more passion than Sakura had ever seen before in real life. His hands roamed over her exposed body, his lips traced hers in slow deliberate arcs, she could see Hinata's nails digging into his back. "Oh my god." She whispered as they both ducked back behind the rock. "I know." Kurenai whispered back. "I can't believe it." Hinata finally got him. She's had a crush on Naruto since before the academy, good for her. Kurenai peeked over the rock again. "I'm not sure she needed to go quite so slutty though." Sakura sat on the ground, with her back to the boulder, and her knees clutched to her chest. "No, no, 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 oh no," she whispered. Chapter 8 The Byakugan's Weakness. Naruto and Hinata lay in each other's arms, basking in the afterglow of their first make-out session. "Wow Hinata, that was incredible." Hinata blushed and smiled. "I can't believe I just spent the afternoon making out with Naruto-kun. This has been the greatest day of my life." Her confidence soaring, she rolled partway onto her back and arched in a fake stretch, causing her oversized breasts to jut out, impossible to ignore. "Why thank you Naruto-kun, I had a great time too." She smiled. Naruto's hand couldn't help itself, without any commands from his brain whatsoever it moved gingerly across his body to caress her incredible. "Naruto. Why?" A startled Naruto screamed as Hinata jumped up. "What happened? Is someone there?" he asked nervously, looking in every direction. "No, I forgot to tell you, my Byakugan. What about your hay? Is it okay? I noticed that you couldn't hit my chakra points while we were, sparring." Hinata blushed. "Well yes and no," she replied. "It seems to be perfectly fine except when I look at you." Naruto looked at her surprised. "There's two things, first is your chakra, it's a weird gold color. I've never seen anything like it Naruto, the Byakugan always sees chakra as blue. But the really weird part is that whenever I try to look close in at the details like your chakra points, it gets all blurry." Naruto looked surprised. "No kidding. It has to be the merge," he thought. "But why would that interfere with the Byakugan? I know the Nine Tails chakra has a different character than normal human chakra, but other than that I don't know much about it. And with my chakra now being a hybrid, it could have lots of other unintended consequences. I'm not sure what I should say, maybe just what she needs to know for now. Well, while I was traveling with Jiraiya-sensei, a lot of things happened to me that I can't exactly explain myself. As you've no doubt noticed, the nature of my chakra has changed over the last few years, maybe it's interfering with your Byakugan somehow," he offered. "Interfering?" she repeated, lost in thought. Hinata thought back to something her father told her when she was younger. All Dojutsu are thought to be descendant from a common ancestor. Many of the weaker variations are now extinct, but two of the strongest techniques live on here in Konoha, the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan, and of course the Byakugan of the Hyuga. While these two Dojutsu provide the users with very different effects, you must remember that they are still related. In many ways that are not generally known, they often offset each other, that is, one is weak where the other is strong and vice versa. This is one of the first secrets of Byakugan and the Hyuga that I will teach you. The other is a warning you must always be mindful of Hinata, even with a birthright as powerful as the Byakugan there are weaknesses as well. The Ashi never did tell her any more than that, he had decided that she was worthless by then and focused all his attention on her younger sister Hanabi. But the warning was one she never forgot. "Weakness?" Hinata mumbled. "What do you mean weakness?" "Oh. Naruto, I don't understand it, but I think that somehow you're able to exploit the weakness of the Byakugan." Naruto opened his eyes in shock. "Weakness of the Byakugan? I didn't know there was one, what is it?" "I don't know exactly," she admitted. "But I bet that my father Hiashi would know. I should take you to him and see if he can explain it." "I don't know," Naruto said, nervously waving his hands. "I think I'd rather not be the subject of some crazy experiment. Could we maybe just keep this between us for now?" Hinata looked disappointed. Sure, I guess so if that's what you want Naruto-kun." "Oh hey, don't be upset," he pleaded. "Maybe if we train together more often, like actually train," he smirked, "then you'll adapt. You said it was just blurry, that's not the end of the world, right? I bet if we train every day you'll be able to pick me apart in no time. Actually, I'd love for you to take me apart anytime," he thought. Hinata looked up with a smile returning to her face. He wants to train every day. Kurenai-sensei was right. I need to remember to thank her. That sounds good Naruto-kun. Maybe you're right, maybe if we train together enough I can learn to see your chakra points as well. It's not dark yet or anything, do you think we can try now? "Sure. What do you need me to do?" he asked cheerfully. "Well, I guess if you just sit and hold still then I can try and use my Byakugan to study your chakra flow, and then maybe like you said I might adapt or something." "No problem Hinata-chan, give it try and let's see what you can see," Naruto said cheerfully as he plopped down cross-legged. "Byakugan." Hinata sat down next to Naruto and inspected his chakra network. "Still looks the same, blurry, can't make out his chakra points or the flow." Hinata's brow creased as she concentrated. "Zoom and finer control, got to find his chakra points. Wait." Hinata leaned in close so that her face was only a few inches from Naruto's stomach. "I think I can see the flow." It's faint but it's there, moving up right here. Naruto giggled, he could feel her breath on his skin. What is it, did you see something? I'm trying to follow your chakra flow. She responded. Hinata moved her face up Naruto's torso following his chakra. As she passed by his left nipple, she suddenly took it in her lips, giving a light suction. Hinata and Naruto complained smiling, I can't sit still when you do that. Hinata smiled and moved on, sensitive, check. Tracking the flow of chakra in his body was difficult, seeing the chakra itself was easy, the golden energy was as bright as ever. But details like determining the direction of flow itself or his chakra points was nearly impossible unless she stayed glued to his body. My tough luck. She thought cheerfully. She followed the flickering chakra staying mere inches from him, up his chest, up his neck, and finally up to his eyes. His eyes. There seemed to be some chakra gathered in Naruto's eyes. He doesn't have a taijutsu, only the Uchiha and Hyuga do. She thought. The chakra in his eyes seemed especially blurry. She got closer. Naruto had his eyes closed in attempted meditation, but he could feel her breath on his lips. Hinata shhhhhhh. She hushed him. Hold on, I think I see something. Her eyes were starting to hurt from the strain, but she ignored the pain and tried to bring the chakra into focus. The golden energy danced and surged beneath her gaze like it was playing a game, trying to evade her. She knew this was no simple chakra flow, there was definitely something there to see if only she could focus in on it. Hinata called as much chakra as she could to her eyes, trying to overpower the mysterious energy. The arteries around her eyes bulged from the strain, drawing more and more blood to feed her effort. The pain intensified as the blurs of chakra began to show edges and form. That's it. I can do this, just a little more Hinata, you have to focus. An edge, a side, the shapes in Naruto's eyes were slowly resolving themselves into something recognizable. Why does this hurt so much? I've never felt like this before. Is it the strain? Hinata threw her concerns aside and concentrated all her effort into one last push. What are you, damn it? Without warning, the balls of chakra burst into sharp relief, and to her horror, Hinata realized that just an inch from her own staring right back at her was an unblinking golden eye, analyzing her with its long, jagged, inhuman iris. She tried to move but couldn't, she tried to scream but couldn't. She could only stare into the horrible eye as it racked her with pain and pulled her closer. Hinata could feel the panic swelling inside her. What is this? I can't control my body. Is this Jinjutsu? Naruto, please stop, can you hear me? Please help me. Oh my god. A blast of light and pain smacked Hinata in the face and knocked her back into the ground. She turned onto her stomach and curled up out of instinct. Naruto felt the movement instantly and opened his eyes. He saw Hinata and jumped up in a panic. Hinata-chan. Are you okay? Get away from me. She screamed, trying to climb onto her feet. What happened? What's going on, Hinata? Naruto pleaded. I don't understand. Hinata stood up with her back to him. She was seeing stars, but she could see. Her Byakugan was deactivated by the blast, but her eyes still hurt enough that she was sure she couldn't call on it again anyways. She blinked, trying to clear her vision enough to walk and wipe the tears from her eyes. She could feel the adrenaline in her system urging her to escape, to get as far away from whatever it was that hurt her as she could. And nothing's going on. She lied. I just overused my Byakugan, that's all. Are you sure? You seem upset. Hinata focused on not shaking. She didn't know what happened or what to do, but her senses were still screaming in fear and telling her to run. What was that? Was that Naruto or something else? Does he know? Why did I hear something call my name? Something's wrong, I can't protect myself and neither can Naruto. He doesn't even know what happened. I don't even know if it was him. I have to get out of here. Here, let me help you, he said as he moved towards her. I said I'm fine. She yelled, recoiling. The movement spun her slightly to face him. Naruto saw the movement and pulled back instantly. He didn't know what was wrong, but he could see something he'd never seen on Hinata's face before, fear. She was afraid of him. What was going on? One minute she was licking his, the next she was afraid to touch him. Was this some weird part of dating he never heard about? Hinata, please, tell me what's going on. I don't understand what you're upset about. If you'll just tell me, I promise we can work it out. Hinata jerked her head up and looked at him, his arms were outstretched and his face was so sincere. How could she say no to those beautiful blue eyes? Something flickered, his eyes moved and danced, and she watched in horror as the irises slowly contracted into a vertical slit. Hinata jumped straight back, no. She spun around quickly and ran past her jacket, picking it up on the run. I have to go. She yelled over her shoulder in a panic. Naruto watched her disappear into the distance. What the hell was that? Everything was fine and then she completely freaked out. This doesn't make any sense at all. Is she bipolar or something? Naruto sighed. His first date ever was a complete disaster and he had no idea why. Something in the back of his mind was trying to talk to him that this was most definitely not normal, but he didn't know what to make of it. He looked towards the village. It was going to be dinner time soon and he was getting hungry. Sighing, he started the long walk back. This disaster of a date was running through Naruto's mind as he shuffled past the Yamanaka family flower shop. Ino was cleaning up after a long day, she only worked 1 day a week in the shop now, as her ninja duties took up most of her time these days, but on days like this, that still seemed like too much. Sweeping out the corner, a glint of white caught her eye for the second time today. Is that? There he was again. That same young shinobi who looked in the window earlier that morning. She had worked the entire day in a daze, wondering about the identity of the mysterious hot eye from the morning. That's him. No way he's getting away this time. Time to meet Ino Yamanaka, Mr. Hot Eye. Okay mom, all done here, gotta go. She called out as she flew out the door. Naruto was so lost in thought that he actually bumped into the waiting Ino before he knew she was there. Oh, sorry miss, he mumbled, barely meeting her eyes. It was only a quick glance, but it was enough for Ino, she knew that look when she saw it. Working at a flower shop in a shinobi village, she often prepared flower arrangements for and talked with ninja who had lost loved ones and comrades. The experience gave her a bit of a sixth sense when it came to the sorrow of people around her. She could usually tell with a single glance what an individual was feeling, and the mysterious stud was looking like heartbreak. Perfect. Ino thought. My specialty. I'll have this cutie wrapped around my little finger in no time. Now I just need to find my in, I guess the standard line will do. Oh come on, it can't be all that bad for a good-looking guy like you. I bet she doesn't have any idea what she's missing. Ino held her breath, man I hope I called that one right. Naruto looked up at the girl in front of him for the first time. Ino, he recognized her instantly. She was some kind of mind control specialist, not ninjutsu really, but some kind of special family trait, he didn't know much about it. She was part of teammate with Shikamaru and Choji. Shikamaru was a tactical specialist, and Choji, well he just seemed to specialize in being really big. Hey Ino, how have you been? He managed rather pathetically. I'm sorry. She said in sudden surprise. Ino leaned in, suddenly forgetting all decorum. Do I know you? It's me, Naruto. Naruto? She blurted. Holy hell. He's so different. I can't believe I just spent the entire day thinking about Naruto. She gave him a more thorough inspection, taller now, and thinned out in the face. His hair was much longer as well, hanging in jagged spikes over his forehead protector, giving just a bit of cover to his inviting blue eyes. She, along with every other girl in the academy, had always ignored Naruto. He was loud, obnoxious, and awkward looking back then. She chased after the hot commodities like Sasuke. She was one of the cutest girls in her class after all. But now standing here in front of Naruto 3 years later, she found his new looks more than an equal for Sasuke. His friendly eyes and less arrogant demeanor were quite a turn on as well. This deserved a little closer look. Do you want to talk about it? She asked, immediately regretting the question. Digging up his problems wasn't going to get him to focus on her, but she opened the can of worms. She'd just have to power through it. He sighed, not right now Ino, I've had a really bad day. Oh no. I'm not letting you come back to see me after 3 years and not take you out for some ramen. Ino smiled. I'm actually not here to see why. Wait, did you say take me out for ramen? Ino shook her head up and down. Actually I'm starving and ramen is exactly what I need, and I guess I could use some company right now after the kind of day I've had. Ino, can I ask you a question? Sure Naruto, what is it? Have you ever thought you knew someone, thought someone would always be there for you, and then when you need them most they say no more, Ino replied. Let's go get some ramen. Hinata. I demand you open the door right now. Hiashi yelled. The servants had told him that his eldest daughter locked herself in her room crying. Out of curiosity he investigated and tried to reason with her, but his patience had worn thin. This was no behavior befitting a ninja. Hinata. Hinata sat in her room on floor, she was in no mood to face her father just now. Her earlier feelings of fear and panic had given way to sadness and regret. By the time she reached home her vision seemed to return to normal, and she realized her eyes hadn't been damaged in any sort of permanent way. Sitting there crying in her room, she analyzed the afternoon's events in her head over and over again. The more she thought about it, the more she cursed her own stupidity. The pain didn't just come on without warning, it built up slowly, and she ignored it, pressing on and forcing her Byakugan, despite the obvious warnings that she should have backed off. It certainly wasn't Naruto's fault, he didn't even seem to know what had happened, and he only showed concern for her when she screamed. But she still couldn't get the memory of the eye and what it did to her out of her mind. Whatever that thing was, it was evil, that much was obvious, and somehow it was able to use her Byakugan against her. That alone was enough to scare Hinata to her very core, but the fact that it truly saw her and called the name Hyuga was still sending her heart racing. But among all the questions racing through her mind, the one that was really eating at her was whether or not Naruto was aware of the eye. His reactions certainly pointed to him being unaware, but how could it have possibly known her name then? She wasn't sure what was more frightening, him being unknowingly possessed or him acting like he didn't know. Hinata was torn. On one hand she loved Naruto her entire life and still loved him. They each saved the other's life on more than one occasion in the field, and her shinobi instincts told her that a comrade was in danger and she needed to act. On the other hand, Naruto and the Eye were now unknowns on many levels, but she did know they were dangerous. And to put it quite simply, she was scared to death of him. The Byakugan defined Hinata as it defined all Hyuga. It was part of what made her who she was. And it made the ease with which the mysterious power in Naruto attacked her eyes very personal and more frightening than anything she'd ever experienced. Hinata looked deep inside herself to try and find the answers and saw the undeniable truth: she simply didn't have enough information to act. Then my path is clear, she told herself. I don't know how, but I have to find out what happened to Naruto-kun while he was gone. I have to find out what he is. I just wish I knew where to start. Crash. Hinata didn't have the luxury of finishing her thoughts as the sound of splintering wood filled the room. Lord Hiashi Hyuga, leader of the Hyuga clan, had waited long enough. With the door now in shards, he stood in front of his cowering daughter. What is the meaning of this? Crying like a child and refusing to answer me? Hinata said nothing. You will tell me what's going on this instant. What's going on? Where have you been? Hinata shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. Father, it's just that I spit it out. Well, you see, I was supposed to meet Naruto-kun for training this morning, and Naruto Uzumaki. Well, yes father. You see, enough. I've told you many times to stay away from that boy. He's nothing but trash and I won't have you wasting your time with the likes of him. Wait, did he do something to you? Is that why you're crying? Hinata panicked again. No father. It was my fault, he didn't know. Silence. He bellowed. Get up, we're going to see the 5th Hokage immediately. I'll have that little bastard's head before the end of the day. No disgraces the Hyuga. Chapter 9 Kurenai's question. Jiraiya opened Tsunade's door without bothering to knock and barged in. You called. Tsunade jumped up with a panicked look on her face. She was trying to hide the sake bottle when she realized it was only Jiraiya. Will you please knock next time? I am the 5th Hokage after all, a little respect would be nice. But point, I wouldn't want anyone thinking I'm your boyfriend sneaking up here for a quickie or anything like that. He teased. Jiraiya dodged the incoming sake glass with practiced grace, snagging it with his left hand just before it hit the wall. Hey now. You can abuse me all you want, in fact I encourage it. But that's not how you should abuse alcohol. Shut up and get in here, close the door behind you. She said. Tsunade grabbed a file from a large stack and threw it to Jiraiya. I've got a very special assignment for Naruto, I thought you might want to see it. Jiraiya opened the folder and reviewed its contents. Oh man, is he ever going to be excited. And long overdue too. Sure is, I thought you might want to take a few days to give him some additional training before setting out. If he's still having any control issues like you talked about the other day, then this would be a good time to work on it. Are you kidding? He'll be fine, you saw how he did against Kakashi. This assignment should be a walk in the park for Naruto. Maybe not. You never know who he'll end up facing out there, and there's always some overly powerful freak of nature like Gaara that you never see coming. But that's not even the point. We both know Akatsuki is still out there and still a threat, and let's not forget about Orochimaru and Sasuke. Naruto has the potential to become as powerful as his father someday, and Konoha needs that desperately. Without his power, the future could be a very bleak one for the village hidden in the leaves. Jiraiya knew she was right, his training would have to continue. But that was no reason to pass up an extortion opportunity. Okay, I'll make you a deal. You go out for some drinks with me and I'll get right back to work on Naruto. In fact, I spoke to Kakashi this morning and he wanted to help with Naruto's training as well, said he had some crazy idea that only Naruto could pull off. Deal? Jiraiya, enough with the dates already. We've been down that road years ago, just let it go already would ya? It's not a date, just drinks I swear. But it always turns into a date doesn't it? Look, you're a pervert and I'm not, it's just not going to work out okay. So I'm the bigger perv huh? Now there's a debatable point, but I suppose it's neither here nor there. Jiraiya got up, turned towards the door and sighed. Tsunade, we're not getting any younger, you know that right? Speak for yourself, I look great. She replied sarcastically. It's not your henge I'm interested in Tsunade, it's you. Tsunade's smile faded, he was actually serious. I've spent the last 15 years of my life on the road pretty much alone, except for those last 3 with Naruto. I know you had Shizune when you left the village, but don't you ever get lonely? That hit a little close to home. Normally Tsunade would have kicked anyone who asked her personal questions like this out on their ass, it was none of their business. But Jiraiya was always different, she felt like she could talk to him in a candid way that she couldn't even talk to Shizune sometimes. And it wasn't often she got to see this side of him. Sure I do Jiraiya. But when I get that kind of lonely it's easier to just find some cute stranger to connect with for a night or two. Don't tell me you haven't done the same because I know you have. Of course, my reputation still precedes me I see. Well to be perfectly honest it's gotten boring and I'm tired of it. Besides, do you really consider that a connection worth making? When I think about all the girls I've connected with over the years, I realize that they're just a bunch of little girls. None of them could really ever understand me. Jiraiya looked over his shoulder and waited a moment for Tsunade to meet his gaze. And none of yours could really ever understand you. That's all I'm saying. Tsunade was dumbfounded. She wanted to argue or at least throw out a sarcastic remark, but nothing came to mind. Fortunately for her, the awkward silence was broken by a commotion outside the door of her office. She and Jiraiya turned to the door and listened to the muffled voices. Get out of my way, this can't wait. She's in a meeting with a very important guest right now and she has a lot of paperwork to do, she doesn't have time. Move it or lose it, girl coming through. Wait, no. She's busy, you can't just. The door burst open and Kurenai Yuhi barged through, dragging her left leg. The source of the limp was a very worried looking Shizune who was refusing to let go. Tsunade's apprentice Sakura followed the two, looking as though she had just spent the last hour crying. What's the meaning of this? Tsunade asked coolly. She ought to be angry, but this looked interesting and might just be enough to get her out of finishing her paperwork for the evening. Shizune looked up at her master. She's not going to do any more paperwork, is she? She sighed. I'm coming in early tomorrow for sure. I need to talk to you about Naruto right away, Hokage-sama. Kurenai said. Figures, Tsunade thought. It was so quiet with him gone, this is going to get annoying pretty quick. What did he do this time? He's only been in the village for 2 days. Jiraiya turned his head and tried to suppress a smile. Naruto may have grown up a lot in the last 3 years, but that only meant that the trouble he got into was more grown up as well. Kurenai looked like she was ready to burst. I ran into him on the street and he was wearing a white fire cloak. You know, like the fourth used to wear. Kurenai said in a hushed voice. Sakura looked up for the first time. She was interested in finding out anything she could about her now enigmatic teammate. Oh, was he now? Man, that kid is anything but subtle. I wish he would have eased into this. Tsunade said. Jiraiya. Is this your doing? I know we need to let Naruto be who he is, but there are better ways of going about this. Jiraiya threw his hands up in mock surrender. Hey, it wasn't me. Besides, unless I'm teaching him a new jutsu, he never listens to me anyways. And that's not all. Then he said that his name was Kurenai stopped. Motioning with her eyes over at Shizune and Sakura, she seemed to be trying to communicate something in code. Oh, for the love God, Kurenai, I'm in no mood for charades. What is it? I'm not sure if they should hear this, Kurenai whispered. I think I know what this about. Tsunade sighed inwardly. I'm sure this is going to be a tough week. When word gets out it'll spread like wildfire. The town council is gonna want to question me for a month. They might as well stay, they're going to hear it sooner or later. Kurenai looked shocked, but Tsunade-sama. He said his name was Crash. The door to Tsunade's office flew open again, this time assaulted by Hiashi Hyuga. He was dragging his daughter Hinata in by the arm and the girl looked none too happy to there. I'm very sorry for the interruption, Hokage-sama, but I must speak with you at once. Now wait just a minute. Tsunade yelled. I'm the 5th Hokage and I will not tolerate everyone just bashing my door in unannounced. Seeing the two new visitors, both Kurenai and Sakura went rigid. Kurenai glanced over at Sakura, unsure of what to do. After watching her go into a complete meltdown seeing Naruto and Hinata make out, she actually had to pick up the traumatized girl and carry her away from the training grounds to avoid being caught like a couple of peeping toms. She had no idea that Sakura liked Naruto, in fact she had seen her turn Naruto down on several occasions years prior. Kurenai just figured that Sakura, like most girls her age, fancied Sasuke. Of course, with Sasuke going rouge and Naruto growing up, it explained a lot if Sakura's feelings were changing. Oh. She's scowling. Jiraiya's eyes raced back and forth between the faces in the room. Hello. What's this then? Again, I'm sorry, Hokage-sama, but this simply could not wait. I require justice. My honorable clan has been disgraced. Hiashi explained. Disgraced how? Tsunade asked. Hinata tugged at her father's arm. Please father, don't. I'm fine, I told you. Naruto didn't do anything, we have to leave. Kurenai suddenly remembered what she had come to ask Tsunade-sama. About Naruto. I'm here to report that Naruto Uzumaki assaulted my daughter. Hiashi bellowed out, trying to make sure he was heard over the growing noise in the room. Tsunade and Shizune gasped. I'll say, Sakura quipped loudly. Lord Hiashi. I can assure you wait. Sakura, just what the hell is that supposed to mean? Tsunade asked, glaring her student. Father, we have to leave right now. Hinata pleaded. Kurenai tried again, but Naruto said his name was. Silence, Hinata. Hiashi yelled. We're not going anywhere until that Uzumaki scum is punished for what he did to you. Hinata looked at the floor, started turning red. Hinata, what did Naruto do to you? Tsunade asked. More like what didn't he do? Hinata's head snapped around toward Sakura. What? Shut up, Sakura. Tsunade growled. This is kind of important here. Then you saw this? You saw the assault on my daughter? There you see, Hokage-sama. The demon child has gone too far. He isn't fit to roam the streets, he should be tied up. Sakura laughed, that shouldn't be too hard, just ask Mistress Hyuga over there. Hinata whirled around, her face bright red, just what are you trying to say, bitch? Every eye in the room went wide as a dinner plate. Tsunade saw the approaching chaos and tried desperately to head it off. Hinata, watch your mouth. Sakura, you. But he said his name was. That's it. Game on, little girl. Sakura screamed. She launched herself across the room and shouldered straight through Hiashi to get to Hinata. Grabbing a fistful of jacket and hair, the two kunoichi screamed and collapsed on the floor in a full catfight wrestling match. Shizune jumped into Jireya's arms. She had no intention of getting in between this group in a confined space. Get off of my daughter, you little wench. Hiashi yelled as regained his balance. He grabbed at the monstrously strong kunoichi, trying to break up the melee with little effect. Oh shit, she's way too strong for Hiashi to just pull her off like that. I never should have taught her this strength, she's too much like me. Tsunade jumped across her desk, desperately hoping to avoid a catastrophe in the making. She landed next to the trio and got one arm in between Hiashi and the girls, and the other arm in between the warring girls themselves. Break it up. She screamed. Get off of me, you crazy bitch. Go to hell, man, thief. Jireya and Shizune scooted farther back into the corner, but Kurenai seemed oblivious to the battle. But Tsunade-sama, is Naruto really kinda busy here, Kurenai? Tsunade called back. What is the meaning of this? Hiashi yelled in frustration. Hokage-sama, I demand that you control your student. Tsunade finally got leverage on Sakura and pushed her left elbow into her stomach, but the manic girl still refused to let go. If I don't pull these two apart, Hiashi's going to do something stupid like use the gentle fist technique to kill somebody. You brought this on yourself, Sakura. Without another option, Tsunade called on her full strength and flung Sakura to the left, trying to end the fight before things got really out of hand. The distinct sound of tearing fabric filled the room as Sakura flew across the room and into a large oak bookshelf. All eyes in the room followed Sakura. She bounced off the bookshelf and landed in a heap on the floor, with half the library's contents piling on top of her. As the dust settled, the pink-haired kunoichi was barely visible, except for one of her arms sticking out of the pile, still clutching Hinata's torn jacket. Almost out of reflex, all eyes turned back towards the origin of the sound and the victim of Sakura's surprise assault. Tsunade and Hiashi's eyes bulged out of their sockets and Jireya dropped Shizune on her ass. There, sprawled out in all her seductive glory, lay an unchanged and very exposed Hinata. She looked up and saw everyone was staring at her. At first she couldn't understand what the problem was until she felt the breeze. Oh. She yelped and flung her arms across her chest in a futile attempt to cover her overexposed body from her father. You wore that to your training with Naruto Uzumaki. Hiashi squeaked, his arms went limp at his sides. But that's what I've been trying to tell you. He said his name was Naruto Namikaze. Kurenai finally screamed. In a state of utter shock, the dazed crowd looked up to Kurenai. What did she just say? The room was dead silent. Is he really related to the fourth Hokage? Kurenai whispered. Tsunade looked around the room and silently cursed herself for not keeping closer tabs on Naruto. Yes. The flustered Hokage breathed, still trying to catch her breath. I can't believe this, it's only been 2 days. Jireya, where in the fuck is Naruto? I need to have a little word with him. Jireya stepped over Shizune and walked towards door. Well, this has been fun, but I know an exit when I see it. I couldn't tell you where he is at the moment, but when I see him I'll tell him to get his affairs in order and come see you, Tsunade. And I'll pick the 3 of you up tomorrow at 8 for drinks. He called over his shoulder. I told you my boobs do not count as separate entities. She screamed back. Oh. That's good to know, Hokage-sama. Kakashi said, walking up to the door. He surveyed the room and took in the entire scene, looking slightly bored. Man, I can't wait to get the story from Jireya. This looks to be a real classic. I take it now's not a good time, eh? Maybe I should come back tomorrow. He said. Chapter 10, Ino's play. Hiashi and Hinata walked home in complete silence. Her shredded jacket was wrapped around her and taped thanks to Shizune and Kurenai. Both of them jumped to help her after the dust settled in Tsunade's office. Every girl alive had faced an angry or disappointed father at one time or another, and while neither one of them had made this exact mistake, there was a sense of understanding in their faces as they tried to make the poor girl vaguely presentable to walk home. The more Hinata thought about it, she probably wouldn't have been able to stand up and walk out the door without their help, the emotional help more than the wardrobe help. Of course, the glares she got from Sakura were another story altogether, but it was hard to make out too much with Tsunade practically sitting on her the entire time. The pink-haired bitch obviously knew something about a rendezvous with Naruto, her loud mouth made that much clear. What wasn't clear was why she seemed to be so angry about it. Hinata resolved to find out more about what the hell was going on as soon as she survived whatever her father had in store for her. Hiashi waited in hallway for her and simply walked home when she exited the Hokage's office. He never said another word after seeing her half naked, but judging from his reaction to Tsunade confirming Naruto's name change, Hinata wasn't altogether sure which event was keeping him quiet. After all, it wasn't like her father to pass up an opportunity to verbally assault her in public. Dragging her feet at his side she glanced at him, but he didn't return the look, still the silent treatment. She could never tell what he was thinking when he was like this, and it drove her crazy. "Father?" She tried, but he didn't respond. She decided not to push her luck and reluctantly finished the journey in silence. As they approached the small palace, all Hyugas called home the servants tending the door, saw the look on their master's face, and hastily opened the door. But just a few feet from it Hiashi suddenly stopped, by Akugan. He whirled on Hinata and snatched her head up in both hands. Hinata was terrified and tried to turn away, but he wouldn't allow it. "Look me in the eyes," he warned. Hinata had been threatened by her father plenty of times, but this tone was different. She did as she was told reluctantly, she knew what he was doing. Relaxing, she let her eyes look into his and saw the Hyuga birthright boring straight into her. The questions would come next and she couldn't lie, not to those eyes. The eyes of an experienced Byakugan user could easily spot the most minute signs of deception. He continued to stare at her without a word and she could feel herself being taken apart piece by piece. "Room?" he said, releasing her suddenly. Hiashi's Byakugan faded and he turned around and walked into the house. Hinata was stunned. What did he do? It would have to wait, she realized, because the only thing that mattered at the moment was doing exactly as she was told. She didn't stop running until she slammed her door behind her. "Well, this is just great," she thought. This day went from magical to disaster in the blink of an eye. "And I can't believe father saw me in this outfit," she groaned. "I don't think I'll ever be able to look him in the eye again." She threw the ruined jacket away and peeled off her outfit. She folded it up neatly and hid it in the back of the closet again. "I think going naked is out of the question for a while," she sighed, rummaging through some other articles in her closet. "Sweats it is." It wasn't until an hour later she realized that the door was in miraculously good shape for just being torn to shreds only a few hours before. Hiashi walked slowly through the palace, he had a lot on his mind. He just confirmed that his eldest daughter was a full-fledged whore for one, but amazingly that wasn't what was bothering him, he had bigger fish to fry. It wasn't too often he visited this part of the property anymore, once a week at most. It was starting to reek of death here, and not the died honorably on battlefield kind of death either. It was the slow decay of time that tortured these halls, something that even Hiashi couldn't stand. He came to rest in front of a large walnut door covered in ornate carvings, one of the few unique doors in the entire palace. Taking in one last fresh breath he pushed the door open. "Hello, father. It is I, Hiashi." He called into the dark room. "Do you think I'm some kind of senile old mummy?" came the sarcastic reply. "Who else is going to call me father? Besides, I felt your pathetically ordinary chakra 3 blocks down the street." Hiashi winced at the sound of the old man's scratchy voice, it like someone was dragging a seizing cat down a chalkboard. Shaking off the effects he responded, "Something most disturbing has happened, and I require your counsel." HMMFT. "About time you recognized your place. Come in and tell me what it is you've done this time." Hiashi entered the room and closed the door behind him, then he walked over and sat down next to the large canopy bed. He could see his father a little better now, his eyes still weren't fully adjusted to the darkness yet, but it would only be a moment. The eyes of the Hyuga were quite strong. "It's not me, father, it's about Hinata." "Oh, for the love of all that's holy, Hiashi. Leave that poor girl alone. She's not you and never will be," Kanjiro admonished. Though he would never admit it because he did love all of his grandchildren very much, Hinata was his favorite. There was something refreshingly un-Hyuga about the girl, and Kanjiro was always amazed by it. Growing up Hyuga was a lot like growing up in the military, but no matter what they did to her, Hinata wasn't and would never be the rank-and-file soldier. Hiashi sighed, this wasn't why he was here, but the argument was almost a ritual, they might as well get it out of the way now. "Why do you defend her, father? She's weak and cowardly, and technically the next in line of succession for the main branch. If she's ever allowed to head this house, the Hyuga will suffer. And I treat her no differently than you treated us, father. It is this way life that keeps our noble clan strong. And it's what keeps this noble clan from greatness." Kanjiro countered. "There can be no gain without risk, Hiashi, and I was too much of a fool to see that until it was too late. Why do you refuse to listen?" Hiashi couldn't hear anymore, he changed the subject to shut the old man up. "Hinata was with a vessel today, Kanjiro-sama. The entire day." This gave the old man pause. "She was she?" They are fellow nin, of course, this isn't entirely unexpected. Why are you so concerned?" Hiashi leveled a very serious look at his bedridden father. "There are a great many things that concern me, father, not the least of which is the vessel's identity." "His identity?" Kanjiro asked. "Yes. I've always known the vessel was an orphan, but it never occurred to me his parents might be of any importance." Hiashi waited for his father to betray something. "Spit it out, boy." Kanjiro coughed. Hiashi narrowed his eyes. During out meeting, Tsune told everyone in the room that his name was Namikaze. Tanjiro sighed and looked down at his sheets, so they finally told him, did they? The Ashi's eyes went wide with shock. You knew of this, why did you not tell me? He demanded angrily. Because those few that knew were sworn to secrecy for the good of Konoha, that's why. And because it doesn't matter as far as you're concerned, the identity of the vessel does not alter our purpose, Hiashi. The elder Hyuga warned. Do you understand me? The Ashi nodded, yes Kanjiro-sama, I understand. Is there anything else I should know? He asked sarcastically. If there was I would tell you. The Ashi smiled at the joke. What his father meant was if there was anything else the old man was hiding, that he could hold his breath waiting to be told for all the good it would do. There is another problem, he's been back in the village for nearly 2 days, and I had no idea the vessel had returned. Tanjiro nodded in understanding, nor did I, do you know how this could be? No, but I mean to find out. I plan to send a small team to surveil him and discern the root of his newfound stealth. I don't often agree with you Hiashi, in fact I'm sure I'll have nightmares for a week because of this, but I agree. Send the team but make it short, if the operation takes too long, it will draw the attention of the Anbu. Hi. I will get to the bottom of this. Hiashi stood up and got ready to leave. Hiashi? Yes Kanjiro-sama. What else? Hiashi sighed, he could live with not being able to lie effectively to his father, but the old man's ability to pick out what he wasn't lying about through omission was truly infuriating. It is nothing father, please go to sleep. Don't lie to me. There's something else about Hinata that has you bothered, beyond the normal bothered that is. It's written all over your face. Wait, all day you said? Yes, they were apparently on a date. A date? Now this was unexpected. Kanjiro smiled at fate, of all the thousands of possibilities this had to be the only one no one ever thought of. Oh the irony. The heir of the Hyuga house on a date with the vessel. The aged shinobi laughed. This isn't funny damn it. Hiashi snarled. I must protect her. I must protect this house. Calm yourself Hiashi, Kanjiro said waving his hands and trying to suppress his laugh. This may very well be the best situation possible. We must not act too hastily here, there is far too much at stake. Ridiculous. Hiashi spat. Tanjiro stared at Hiashi for a moment, does he have her heart? Hiashi shot an angry glance back at his father, how does he do that? He wondered. I take it you've already barricaded the girl in her room then? She won't stay forever you know. Her heart will eventually overcome her fear of you, and when it does things will become worse. A woman's heart is no simple matter. Hiashi shook his head back and forth, disgusting, I refuse this, think of Hinata that way. But in any event it's simply too dangerous to let them be together. Why? Because I looked into Hinata's eyes tonight Kanjiro-sama and I saw something. He drifted off. What could you have possibly seen that makes you so frightened? Perhaps it's time to tell the girl our secret. If she does love him she would never truly betray him, but if she could be convinced that this is for his own good, then we might learn much. The Ashi was surprised, his father actually missed the mark for once. It wasn't a look in her eyes I saw that concerns me father, it was a mass of blood vessels in the whites of both her eyes. They were all burst. Tanjiro gasped, the eyes of the Hyuga were no normal eyes, everyone knew this. But few knew how extraordinary they really were. No member of the Hyuga clan had less than better than perfect vision even without the Byakugan. None had ever suffered vision loss at any age, no disease or malady had ever struck the eyes of a Hyuga in recorded clan history. No, the eyes of the Hyuga were perfect in every way. Always perfect, except once, that is, 16 years ago. Kanjiro closed his eyes and remembered that night, that nightmare. The Hyuga, most powerful clan of the village hidden in the leaves, raced towards the battleground to defend their home as only they could. His entire life was nothing more than a practice run, preparation for this moment. It was his destiny he knew, and the monster would fall before him. They reached the great perimeter wall that surrounded the village, and activating his Byakugan Kanjiro, surveyed the destruction. Then he saw it, the Kyuubi in all its horrific glory, laid waste to the earth and stood tall amid the fire and chaos. The demon sensed him he knew, and its massive red eyes fell on his location. The massive fox smiled at him and his world fell apart. Tanjiro was blind, they all were. Thanks a lot Ino, Ramen always makes me feel better. Naruto said with smile. Ino smiled back, men were so easy. There were only 2 parts of a man's body that a woman had to know to completely control any man, and she was already halfway there with Naruto. No problem Naruto, you just look like you could use a friend, that's all. Yeah, you got that right. I just don't understand people, I guess. Sometimes it just seems like no matter what I do people don't want to see the real me, they only see the negatives. It doesn't matter what I do. You mean you wish they would just see what's really on the inside? Naruto winced. I guess, but what do you do when the inside is the problem? Ino frowned for a moment considering Naruto's response. Man, he's really a mess, if this is all about a girl it's going to be a real pain in the ass to get him to focus on me. It's a good thing I have a soft spot for heartbroken studs, time for plan B. Come on Naruto, I think I've got just the thing that'll cheer you up. Ino said. Where are we going? "In my apartment, just try not to get too fresh with me, okay?" she said with a wink. Naruto hesitated a moment, something was telling him that he shouldn't be going with her. But she really was being nice, and when she saw that he was hurting, she dropped everything she was doing to spend time with him and just talk. It was a side of Ino that he'd never seen before and he liked it, there was more to this girl than meet the eye. "Okay Ino, let's go check out your place. And I'll try not to get too fresh," he teased. Naruto entered Ino's apartment right behind her. It was nice if a bit girly for his taste. A one-bedroom, it had a small kitchen and an even smaller living room, but it was what she could afford, he reminded himself. Not everybody inherited a house. "Sorry about it being so small, but it's mine." Ino smiled. She gauged his expressions as he surveyed the apartment. They were similar to most men, but there was a subtle difference as well. For starters, most men she invited over grabbed her ass on the way in the door. And the way they looked at her apartment, she always got the impression they were just looking for the best spot to get naked. Naruto on the other hand didn't have any lust in his eyes when he looked at her, they were just friendly. Her smile widened a bit. "What are you talking about? This place is great. It's a little on the feminine side for my tastes, but it's nice." "Thank you. You know you're the first guy to say that." "Say what, that you have a nice apartment?" "No, that it's not your taste." It was honest, most guys just lie and say that's the greatest thing ever or some idiot line. "Most guys?" Naruto asked. "Oh you know, Shikamaru, Choji, and everybody." Ino covered quickly. "Man that was close. I don't want Naruto thinking I'm the village slut. This honesty crap of his is starting to rub off on me. So anyways, the reason I brought you here Naruto-kun." Naruto stiffened up a little at the sound of Ino addressing him so personally, she had never referred to him like that before. It reminded him of Hinata, and the feelings from earlier flooded back into his mind. Naruto slumped his shoulders a bit. "Hey Ino, look, I really appreciate everything you're doing for me, but I don't want to be a downer right now and exactly my point," she said. "You're down in the dumps Naruto, and I know how to make you forget all about it for the rest of the night. If you really think you're going to miss them that much, I can promise you your problems will still be there in the morning." Naruto cracked another smile. "Okay, you've got my attention, so how are you going to make me forget all about my problems?" Ino reached into her cupboard and pulled out a small glass set, sake. The knock on the door startled Hinata, she looked at it hoping whoever it was would just go away. This day just needed to be over already before anything worse happened. "Hinata?" A familiar voice whispered. She walked over to the door and whispered, "Niji. Let me in, I need to talk to you." Hinata let her cousin in quickly and closed the door behind him, she didn't feel like looking at anyone else who might walk by. "What is it?" she asked, Niji didn't visit too often. "What happened to you today? I heard that something happened to you this afternoon and then you and father got into a fight at the Hokage's tower. The entire house is buzzing with gossip. So why not get your gossip from the best possible source?" she asked sarcastically. "You know I'm not like that Hinata, I'm just worried about you." It was true, Niji was probably her favorite family member. For most of his life he hated her just like every other member of the branch family. But after nearly killing her during the infamous Chunin exams a few years back, he lost his match against Naruto and did a complete 180. Naruto changed Niji even more than he changed Hinata, it was just another thing that confirmed for her that Naruto was the one. If there was something bothering her or if father was treating her especially bad, she could always count on Niji to notice and help her out any way he could. "It's kind of hard to explain," she said weakly. "Try me." Hinata swallowed, she was going to have to edit some of this on the fly, he was family after all. "Well, I went to go train with Naruto-kun this afternoon. And when we were sparring something weird happened." Niji leaned in closer, she had his full attention now. Niji had always been curious about Naruto ever since the loud genin bested him. Niji thought he had shut down every one of Naruto's chakra points. Naruto shouldn't have been able to fight whatsoever after that, but fight he did. It should have been impossible, and it kept Niji up at night on more than one occasion. "Well, ever since he returned the village I keep seeing some very strange things with my Byakugan." "Strange how?" Niji insisted. He scooted so close that Hinata was feeling uncomfortable. "It's his chakra system, whenever I look at Naruto-kun his chakra looks like gold." "Gold? But how is that possible?" Niji asked surprised. Hinata could tell that he was more talking to himself than asking her a question. "He's the only one I've ever seen who's different and now it's gold." "What do you mean he's the only one you've ever seen different?" Hinata asked. Niji looked at his cousin with a serious expression. "I've never told anyone this before Hinata, but when I fought Naruto 3 years ago I saw something I couldn't explain either." "So you've seen the gold chakra?" "No, that day after I hit him with the 64 palms jutsu I saw his chakra network with my Byakugan, it was totally shut down. There was no chakra flowing in him at all, the fight was over. But then while I watched it came back to life. I've never seen anything like it Hinata, the chakra flowed from his stomach and restarted his entire system." But it wasn't just any chakra, and it wasn't blue or now gold as you say, but it was red. Red? How is that possible, Niji? I've never seen anything but blue chakra in another shinobi, not even in an animal. But now Naruto has blue, then red, and now gold chakra. I don't understand it either. There's something about him that's almost inhuman. She finished. Niji hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. Yes, I don't like to use that word with him because I know the kind of shinobi he is, but his powers are most definitely beyond anything I've ever seen before. Niji thought of something and stared at his cousin, Hinata. Is there anything else? Anything else you saw that made you use that word? Inhuman. Hinata froze, the momentary hesitation said it all, and she knew it. Yes, there is something. She admitted. But you have to promise me, Niji, this is between you and me, you can't tell anyone, especially father. I promise, this is just between you and me. He swore. It was difficult, because his chakra network seems blurry somehow. Whenever I look at it, it's as though it can block my Byakugan somehow. But when I tried really hard, I was able to focus in on something, a shape in his chakra flow. When I focused in on it, my eyes burned and I ran away from him. I was so frightened, Niji. What was it, Hinata? She shuddered at the memory. It was an eye, Niji, a golden eye made of chakra. And it wasn't human, it had a vertical iris like some kind of predator. It saw me, Niji, it looked at me. Niji's eyes bulged in shock, the eye of an animal, she nodded. Then I'm not crazy, there really is something there. You saw it too? During your fight? She asked. No, not an eye exactly, I think I saw the whole thing. When the strange red chakra surged through him that day, I thought I saw a shape, something took form and looked at me. I never told anyone because I was sure they'd think I was crazy. I even managed to convince myself that it was my imagination. But it wasn't, you've seen it now too. There's something inside of Naruto, something frightening. Niji, what was the shape you saw? If I didn't know any better, I'd say it was a fox. The two stared at each other for a moment. Hinata broke the silence. Niji, I think Naruto might be in danger. When I was with him today, I got the impression he didn't know about whatever it was inside him. But we can't help him either, we have to be careful. Why is that? Niji asked. Because he's dangerous to us at least. Niji's eyes grew wide. What do you mean dangerous to us? The eye, Niji, it hurt me somehow. Like it was able to use some kind of genjutsu on me or something. But I think the reason this happened is because it was able to use the Byakugan against me. She said. Niji jumped up in disbelief. What? Shhhhhhh. She shoosed him. Quiet, Niji. No one else must know. Something's happening to Naruto and it's dangerous, but I can't just tell anyone. I'm afraid he'll be in danger if I do. I have to help him, Niji, I have to save him. But what can we do, Hinata? We can't even look at him. As long as you don't use the Byakugan on him, you'll be fine, and even then you have to be within inches of his skin to see it. You'll be fine, Niji. Why were you within inches? Niji asked suddenly. Hinata blushed. Never mind, Niji, that's not important right now. What's important is we need to find out what's going on with Naruto. Can you help me? I don't think father's going to let me out of here for a while. Okay, I'll help. Niji nodded. You were right. Naruto proclaimed. This shit is great. The warm sake tasted horrible to Naruto, which was weird since it didn't have much of a taste that he could explain. He wasn't really going to drink the stuff in the first place, he knew better, but Ino challenged his ninja way and somehow that got them started on a game she called Kings. Told you so. And you weren't going to have any, she teased. I know. Seems kind of shilly now, doesn't it? You're the best, Ino. Naruto smiled. I wish you would have been my teammate, that would have been great. Naruto's head swayed a little bit as he tried to focus on Ino with one eye. Ino was a bit surprised. She knew that Naruto had never drank before and would say all kinds of things, but she also knew that drunks either made no sense at all or spoke what was truly on their minds without the normal filters. There was no way to tell which kind Naruto was, but the comment made her blush regardless. Thanks, Naruto, that means a lot to me. I know the kind of guy you are and I know that you really mean it. But enough of that. Since when did you get so cute? Ino? Don't make me blush. Naruto laughed. Ino giggled too. She was an experienced drinker compared to Naruto, but she was beginning to feel the effects of the sake. Well, it's true. Those were 3 really good years for you, Naruto. You can't tell me you haven't noticed a difference in the way the girls are treating you since you got back. Well, yeah, I guess so, but it's just so weird. I don't really know what I should be doing or saying most of the time. But whatever I'm doing, it sure seems to be working. He set up, ending another glass. Oh. So warm. Aha. So you have been hit on already. I knew it. Who was it? Tell me, she pleaded. What are you talking about? I'm not like that, Ino-chan, I never kiss and tell. He slurred. Ino scooted closer to Naruto. Ino-chan, huh? You've never called me that before, Naruto-kun, she said, batting her eyelashes for effect. I promised I wouldn't take advantage of you, remember? Naruto stood up and puffed his chest out. I made a promise to be a gentleman, ill product your virtue is, and I never go back on my words, that's my way of the ninja. Ino got a serious look on her face. You really wouldn't, would you? Huh? Naruto asked, losing track of the conversation. Wouldn't what? Nothing, she said. Okay, no more sake for you, Mr. Virgin Drinker. I don't want you so wasted, you're useless. She grabbed the sake glass from his hand and walked it into the kitchen. Oh come on, Ino. I'm a big shinobi now, I can handle my shock. And what do you mean useless? I could kick 100 asses right now. Ino gave him a sly grin. She dropped the sake cups in the sink and started walking towards him very slowly. Naruto watched her approach without a word. There wasn't much he was certain of right at that moment, but he was sure that the look on her face was telling him shut the hell up. Somehow, he was beginning to feel like something's prey, and his pulse quickened. When she reached him, she put her palm on his chest and gave a hard shove. Naruto hit the couch and smiled up at his assailant. He wished for a moment that he wasn't quite so hazy because it made focusing on her difficult. But on the other hand, having his brain was swimming in sake seemed to be filling said mind with lots of new and exciting ideas. In fact, for the first time in his life, that chapter here at Icha Paradise was starting to make some real sense. Ino glided forward and straddled him one leg at a time, never breaking eye contact. Naruto instinctively put his hands on her arms, but she took them in her own and guided him to her rear. There's only one ass you need to be worried about right now, Naruto. Naruto massaged her cheeks instinctively, reveling in the shapely Kunoichi's supple behind. His breathing got ragged, cinching with the gyrating Kunoichi above him. Ino ran her hands across his face, and the sensations made Naruto's eyes roll into the back of his head. She attacked, kissing him hard and biting his lip, while her hands unfastened his cloak and went to work on his shirt. Naruto's mind was on fire, nothing else mattered but this gorgeous woman. He couldn't get enough of her, the taste was intoxicating, and he lunged forward, moving down to her neck. She moaned with delight at the suction, and he squeezed her ass hard, pulling her hips into his with an urgency that surprised them both. His body seemed to know what to do even when he didn't. Ino pushed herself upright, slowing the action. Smiling, she pulled his shirt open and ran her nails down his lean muscular chest, giving him goosebumps. You've got a wonderful body, Naruto, she smiled. A ninja's body. Would you like to see my body? Naruto ran his trembling hands up her thighs. He could feel his body responding to her, and he knew she could feel it too. He couldn't even speak, but only nodded his head up and down. Ino stared into his eyes. They were full of lust now, but it was still there, that kindness that never seemed to leave. What if Naruto has his inheritance memories? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.